Good evening and welcome to Ysleta Independent School District's meeting of the Board of Trustees. The meeting of the Board of Trustees is a meeting of the board that the public is allowed to attend. As provided, Ysleta ISD Policy BED, we invite members of the public to make comments during the citizens' input portion at the start of the meeting, according to the instructions provided with the electronic posting notice of our meeting. Legally, the board may listen, but may not enter into discussion on matters in citizens' input. We remind everyone that this is a board meeting often attended by students and ask that we conduct ourselves in a manner that best represents the values and traditions of the Ysleta Independent School District. This meeting, the Board of Trustees, is called to order at 6:01 p.m. We have a quorum with Shane Haggerty, Chris Hernandez, Charlie Bustillos, Mike Dwyer, Connie Woodruff, Catherine Lucero, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. It has become a tradition to honor our nation at each of our board meetings by presenting the colors, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and then posting the colors. The colors tonight are being presented by the Junior ROTC Color Guard from J.M. Hanks High School. The Color Guard commander is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert Overgaard, number the third. The other Color Guard members are Cadet Captain Marcus McConnell, Cadet Staff Sergeant Elisario Reese, and Cadet Sergeant William Cowie. The pledge leader is Cadet Commander Sergeant Major Aliyah Gonzalez. Will you please stand for the presentation of colors, the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, the Texas Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence. Please remain standing until the cadets have departed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now please join me in the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Order. On. Post. Forward. March. Left, right. Color guard. Hold. Colors. Head. Arms. Order. Arms. Reform. March side. March. Color guard. Hold. Center. Base. Right. Base. Forward. March. Left, right. Left, right.
Dr. De La Torre, do we have recognitions and introductions this evening?
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, esteemed guests. At this time, I'd like to introduce and invite our Chief Human Capital Management Officer, Mrs. Bobby Russell Garcia, to lead in our recognitions and introductions this evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. We have 3 recognitions for you this evening. At this time, we ask all trustees to please come to the front of the dais for the presentation. Audience members, please remain seated until the recognitions are complete. Thank you. Our first recognition is in honor of Del Valle High School bilingual teacher Denise Buck, who was named the High School ESL Educator of the Year at the annual conference of the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators, also known as TABE. Ms. Buck competed against more than 60,000 educators statewide for this honor and received a $2,000 grant from Summit K-12 for her dedication and commitment to supporting emergent bilingual and ESL students. Also recognized by TABE at this year's conference was Del Valle High School, a finalist for the 2022-23 Campus of the Year honor, while Ysleta ISD was named among the top 5 large school districts of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our high school ESL Educator of the Year from Del Valle High School, Ms. Denise Buck. She is accompanied by Del Valle High School Principal Ivan Cedillo and Director of Academic Languages, Ana Esqueda. Let's hear it one more time for our bilingual education leaders. Our next recognition honors the only string musician from the entire El Paso region to be selected for the prestigious 2024 Texas Music Educators Association All-State Orchestra. Kira Smith, a sophomore at Young Women's Leadership Academy, was among only 40 string bass players from across Texas to be selected for this high honor. Kira has performed with the inaugural UTEP Honor Band and is a continuing member of the El Paso Youth Jazz Ensemble. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our all-state musician from the Young Women's Leadership Academy, Kira Smith. She is accompanied by teacher Amy Smith and principal Melinda Villalobos. Let's hear it one more time for our talented transformer. Our final recognition honors more than 80 Ysleta ISD students who won national academic honors from the College Board for excelling on either the PSAT or AP exams and maintaining a GPA of at least 3.5 or higher. These students are recipients of either the National Hispanic Recognition Award, the National African American Recognition Award, or the National Indigenous Recognition Award. All of these academic honors may be included on the students' college and scholarship applications, giving them a significant competitive edge among their peers in the admissions process. Let's begin with this year's National Hispanic Recognition Award winners from Bel Air High School. Please help me congratulate Alexa Alcares. Katsia Garcia. Mireya Olguin Serrano. Kate Padilla. Sofia Cuyen. Sophie Roman. Sofia Saldivar. And Leah Sotelo. They are accompanied by Principal Jake Valtiera. Let's hear it for the Highlanders. Next, we have National Hispanic Recognition Award winners from Del Valle High School. Please help me welcome Jan Carrasco. Julio Padilla. Jasmine Salas. Ramses Soto. And Idali Torres. They are accompanied by Principal Ivan Cedillo. Let's hear it for the Conquistadores. Our next group of National Hispanic Recognition Award winners are from Eastwood High School. Please help me congratulate Maya Covey. Alexa Criollo. Leonardo Espino. Alexander Flores. Maya Frescas. Risa Gutierrez. Joaquin Madrid. Kira Martinez. Brooke Navadamskis. Adrian Ordaz. Jaylee Quiroz. Marco Ramos. Antonio Retana Jr. Gerardo Sainz. Emma Torres, and Carlos Vota. They are accompanied by Principal Bonita Torres. I don't think we can see. Let's hear it again for these troopers. Next, we have Hanks High School. Please help me welcome our National Hispanic Recognition Award winners. Luis Pujanda. Ron Burford. Andres Delgado. Laura Lee Dorner. Danielle Mendoza. Anira Rivera. Jocelyn Rivera. And Nicole Zugasti. They are accompanied by Principal Ruben Cadena. Congratulations to the Knights. And now let's congratulate our National Hispanic Recognition Award winners from Parkland High School, beginning with Camila Murillo. And Logan Wilson. They are accompanied by Assistant Principal Laura Carrera. Let's hear it for the Matadors. Our next group of National Hispanic Recognition Award winners are from Riverside High School. Please give a big round of applause to Haley Esparza. and Felipe Ortiz. They are accompanied by Principal Victor Lara. Congratulations to the Rangers. Next, we have our National Hispanic Recognition Award winners from Valle Verde Early College High School. Please help me welcome Azelia Acosta, Sofia Alcocer, Alan Araiza, Annalie Fong, Gabriela Gonzalez, Caleb Guzman, John Lira, Benjamin Muñiz, Brianna Rios, Liliana Vasquez. Receiving both the National Hispanic Recognition Award and the National African American Recognition Award is Victoria Gomotz Johnson. They are accompanied by Principal Claudia Canava Flores. Let's hear it again for the Spartans. Next, we have our National Hispanic Recognition Award winners from the Young Women's Leadership Academy. Please welcome Isabel Alvarez, Emily Carroll, Ariana Espino, Jenna Mendez, Veronica Ramos, Valentina Robles, and Diana Rodriguez. They are accompanied by Principal Melinda Villalobos. Congratulations to the Transformers. And tonight's final group of National Hispanic Recognition Award winners is from Ysleta High School. Please give a big round of applause to Victoria Anchondo. Adria Gandara Hernandez. Victoria Garcia. Sofia Terrazas. Letzi Velasco. And Estrella Yepes. They are accompanied by Interim Principal Amelia Garcia. Congratulations to these outstanding Indians. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
I love those girls.
At this time, the board will take a 5-10 minute break, okay? Thank you. Trustee Lucero, do we have citizen input this evening?
Yes, President Ochoa, we do. Our first speaker is Heather Conyer on year-round school.
Can you hear me? Oh, that's loud. Okay. Good evening, President Ochoa, YISD board members, and Dr. De La Torre. My name is Heather Senor, and I am a special education teacher in a self-contained unit that focuses on specialized support and communication. And today I am speaking as an individual, both as a teacher and a YISD parent, in favor of the current school year-round calendar. Since we started this new calendar 2 years ago, I have seen an immense improvement in my students' growth. I loop with my students 3, sometimes 4 years, which means I have the opportunity to see them grow from 2nd grade up until they start middle school, some of the most vital years in their academic and social emotional life. This being said, their success is not only meaningful and significant to me, but it is a reflection of me as a teacher. The shorter summer has resulted in a minimized digression of behavioral and academic deficits. When a child has shorter breaks in between the acquisition of new material and academic skill, that child is more likely to retain the information long term. If you have ever visited a classroom such as our SSC sections, which by the way, they are amazing, you would see that they are highly structured according to the needs of the students. When we have long summers, it takes that much longer to return the students back to their routines and structures just to hopefully be able to address academics within the first month of returning. The fall break in between also allows the students to take a breather and/or receive a smaller group intervention if needed, but not too long that the student loses what they acquired at the beginning of the school year. Additionally and finally, the break provides students and teachers time needed to schedule appointments and to take care of personal needs that they are unable to take care of during the school year. Doctor appointments, dentist offices are not always open late or on weekends, nor mechanic shops, veterinarian offices, or other entities that require periodic attention. Furthermore, as I am sure you are already aware of, it is difficult to get substitutes, sometimes impossible, to cover our classrooms, especially our special populations, providing more unnecessary stress on our students. In closing, when considering our school calendar, I hope you are keeping in mind the whole picture and contemplating the well-being of all students and teachers and the effects and impacts your decisions make on our lives. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
Ms. Senor, I apologize for butchering your name. Now we have Mr. Jeff Senor.
Good evening, President Cruz, trustees, Dr. De La Torre. When I heard there was going to be an opportunity to speak about the school calendar tonight, I kind of sat back and thought, well, what sort of cool talking points can I look up and talk about as far as whether the traditional calendar year is better as opposed to the year-round calendar. And I sat back and thought, well, what if I just go out and ask the people that are working for us in this district? So I went out and did a real quick poll of the teachers. Happened to come across a couple of security officers. There were special education teachers, general ed teachers, paraprofessionals who were in the classrooms with those teachers. And the general consensus is that everybody wants to stay with the year-round calendar. Big reason that a lot of people, which I asked, the big reason is because they're thinking in terms of the kids. And the thing is, the kids, when we go on a long break, an extended break, especially in the world of education, our students, they struggle. They struggle with retention. And when our students have processing delays in the areas of mathematics or English or sometimes both, it's hard when we come back from an extended break. We're talking sometimes three months. We come back from that break, and we have to invest a lot of our time in education working with those kids just to get them back to where they were at the previous year. So when we have a shorter summer, it works out better. A lot of teachers saying, make it shorter, Keep it the way it is. That way we can get back and get to teaching what we need to teach for that year. Also, having that extra break throughout the year, namely in October, it's a chance for teachers and for students to kind of have that break. Sometimes you get burnout from the kids. Sometimes you get burnout from the teachers. And having that break allows us the chance to recharge our batteries, come back with that gusto so that we can hit it hard again after those 2 weeks. And that's why I'm here in support of the year-round calendar. Thank you all very much.
Our next speaker is Arlinda Valencia, school calendar.
Good evening, President Ochoa, Superintendent De La Torre, and Board of Trustees. My name is Arlinda Valencia, and I'm President of the Ysleta Teachers Association. And tonight I'm here to request for you to approve the 24-25 school calendar. I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of the key features of this calendar that makes it stand out. This calendar was created and approved by DEIC, which is made up of parents and teachers. The majority of the teachers and students have expressed their support for this calendar, and we believe it has had a very positive impact to the district. One of the main reasons for this support is of course, the 2 weeks in October, 2 weeks in the spring. You also have the week at Thanksgiving and then the winter break. These breaks are essential for our teachers who work tirelessly throughout the year to provide quality education for our students. The additional weeks that this calendar gives these employees have provided a much needed break that will help them regenerate and recharge. Moreover, the calendar has been designed to ensure that students have the maximum possible time learning, also while providing necessary breaks to maintain their mental and emotional well-being. We extend our sincerest gratitude to all those who had a part in developing this calendar, and we hope that you will support our request and approve it tonight. Thank you for your unwavering support and consideration. Thank you.
We have no more speakers, President Ochoa.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, at this time, we're going to open our public hearing and report on school financial integrity rating system of Texas School First. We will now open the public hearing. Dr. La Torre, will you lead us into the public hearing?
Yes, President Ochoa, members of the board, I'd like to invite our Chief Finance and Operations Officer, David Solis, is going to do the presentation.
Yeah, that doesn't-
Got me there. Have our comptroller, Mr. David Solis, walk us through the first, or the school first rating for the Ysleta Independent School District.
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, and Dr. De La Torre. The Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, or FIRST, is the state school financial accountability rating system that ensures public schools are held accountable for the quality of their financial management practices, and is designed to encourage Texas public schools to better manage their financial resources to provide the maximum allocation possible for direct instructional purposes. Each year, districts are required to hold a public meeting to discuss the district's rating and its performance for the current and previous year's rating, and also provide disclosures related to the superintendent and board members. This evening, for the rating year of 22-23, which is based upon the financial performance for fiscal year 21-22, I am proud to report that once again, since the inception of the rating system in 2004, the Ysleta Independent School District has received the highest rating of superior achievement. Superior achievement requires at least 90 of 100 points to be earned by the district based upon the evaluation of 20 indicators. It is important to point out that the district must pass the first 5 indicators, also referred to as critical indicators, to receive a passing rating. Failure to pass any of the critical indicators would automatically result in the district failing the entire rating system, regardless of what we would score on any of the remaining indicators. Additionally, as in the previous year, indicators number 5, number 10, number 14, and number 15 were not evaluated as part of this year's rating. While these indicators were not evaluated, the district did receive full credit for the maximum points provided by each indicator. This year, the district earned 92 out of 100 points, compared with 90 out of 100 in the previous year. The increase of 2 points was a result of the district receiving 10 points for indicator number 17, days cash on hand, compared with 8 points in the previous year. Indicator number 7 can be found on slide number 14 of the presentation. For all other indicators, the district received the same number of points as it did in the previous year. As previously mentioned, there are additional required disclosures. These additional disclosures are published on our financial transparency page and include the superintendent's contract, reimbursements received by either board members or the superintendent, any outside compensation received by the superintendent for professional consulting, gifts that might have been received by executive officers and board members, and business transactions between the district and board members. A link has been provided in the presentation for each of those disclosures. This presentation is included in the published agenda, and the entire presentation will be made available on the financial transparency page as of tomorrow. This information, along with information pertaining to the indicators, is available online for the public and for you all in your board packet. And with that, I will take any questions or be happy to review any of the indicators.
Yes?
As we increased our points by 2, which ultimately would indicate that we are fiscally responsible as a board.
Correct.
So I think it's important to put that out there for the public. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First, I want to congratulate you and your department for the excellent work that has been accomplished over the years. I've been reading some other items or news clips of where some of our sister districts throughout Texas are having some challenges and even getting, some of them have a very low ratings. But I commend the department for keeping that high standards and keeping us at that A rating, because that means that not only are we financially taking care of our constituents, our taxpayers as well, but we are also doing what is necessary to maintain that rating. So thank you, thank you, thank you. No questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, okay. Secretary Lucero, do we have anyone signed up for the public comment on School First?
No, President Ochoa, we do not.
Well, okay, thank you. We will now close the public hearing and continue with our board workshop. Dr. Latorre, do you have any presentations this evening?
Yes, President Ochoa, we have one presentation for the board this evening. I'll ask Dr. Brenda Chacon to make the introductions.
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, Dr. De La Torre. Tonight we are here to provide you our annual update on our emergent bilingual students, or EB, as required by law. With us today we have Ana Esqueda. She is the director of the ALPS department along with her team. So I will pass it on to her.
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, and Dr. De La Torre. My name is Ana Esqueda, and I am the Director of the Academic Language Programs. I'm going to share our program evaluation. for the 22-23 school year. Our first chart here is the comparison for 22-23 for our STAR and EOC bilingual subgroup. We have it for grades 3 to 12 through all the content areas. If you see on the bottom, we have it for reading, math, science, social studies, and then for our high school English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, U.S. History, for our approaches grade level. Overall, our students, we had an increase for the year 2023 in comparison to 2022, with our English 1 with a 1% decrease. Our next slide shows our comparison for our MEETS grade level for our students, also for grades 3 to 12, STAR and EOC. Same content, reading, math, science, social studies, and then for our high school English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, U.S. History. For our grades 3 to 8, we did have an increase overall from the year 22 to 23, and we did have a decrease for our English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. Our last slide with this comparison for 22-23 for grades 3 to 12 is the students for our master's grade level. Same grade levels, grades 3 to 12. We did have a decrease in our reading. We stayed the same for our math and science, increase for social studies. Our English 1 and English 2, we had the same for our master's. And we did have a decrease for our Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. Our 2023 TELPAS summary, 18% of Ysleta bilingual students were rated as an advanced high in our TELPAS composite ratings. Our TELPAS composite ratings includes the 4 domains: the listening, the speaking, the reading, and the writing. In the year 2022, we had 11,096 students that participated in the TELPAS. 2023, we had 11,258 students that participated in the TELPAS assessment. For our listening, we had a 1% decrease within this comparison 22-23. For our speaking, we actually had an increase of 5%, where historically that's been one of our low domains. For reading, that's actually an error, 6%. It should say a 3% increase. For writing, we did have a decrease for 21%. Please keep in mind that for the writing this year, it was a new platform. Historically, whenever TA changes the platform, back when we did for the listening and writing, the state of Texas and our district, we have a decrease. It's a change. We went from holistic rating to online. And so that was a change in the platforms. Our students did decrease 1 or 2 levels. Overall, our composite was a decrease of 3%, from 21% to 18%. Our emerging bilingual students that met reclassification, we can see here a 4-year progression from our COVID year 2020. We had 316 students. At that year, they had waived the STAR as one of the reclassification in which we did reclassify our students with their TELPAS. Ysleta was one of the few districts in the state of Texas that completed TELPAS assessments in the year 2020, which happened right before spring break. 2021, we had 192 students, 2022, 270. This year, we were able to reclassify 305 students for our grades 1 to 12.
Before you leave that slide, I might have not caught it. What's EB?
Emergent bilingual.
Okay.
That's the latest new name from TEA, from English learner to emergent bilingual. Our teacher certification requirements for the 22-23 bilingual exceptions, Ysleta applied for 30 teachers under the bilingual exception. As of this year, November 1st, we had 3 of our 30 teachers that had applied for the waiver, passed the appropriate certification, and apply for their bilingual certificate. One of the 30 teachers passed the test but has not applied for the bilingual certificate, and 7 of 30 teachers passed the bilingual supplement test, but are pending the BTLPT test. As for the ESL waiver in 22-23, Ysleta applied for 46 teachers, of which by November 1st, you can see close to 50% of those teachers have passed the appropriate certification test and applied for the ESL certificate, which means 22 of the teachers passed. 3 of 46 teachers passed the appropriate certification and are pending to apply for their ESL certification, their certificate. For this year, 23-24, we just submitted our waiver, and we have applied for a bilingual exception on behalf of 9 teachers. And for our ESL waiver, we applied on behalf of 30 teachers. Our professional development included for second language acquisition instruction, we have a breakdown here with the focus in academic vocabulary, literacy instructional routines across language and content, sheltered instruction, reading comprehension, and our program model currently at the elementary. You can see there how many sessions we had for each and the number of participants that we had for each session. As for our waiver, we also had some professional development for the test preparation for the teachers that were on bilingual exceptions and waivers for a total of 14 sessions, and we had them a total of 127 participate.
I'm interested, what is sheltered instruction?
Sheltered instruction is where we provide the professional development to our teachers with emerging bilingual strategies, where we have strategies for the second language acquisition and how they can use this for their students while they are teaching and delivering the instruction.
Okay, what's program model?
The program model is our dual language model, the one-way and two-way model that we currently have in our elementary campuses. This year last year we were able to provide professional development to our teachers.
Okay.
That's where campuses reached out to us to go work with the teachers. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in looking at the writing and how we had the problems with that, I'm just asking, we've already started seeing what the test was like now, and are we making steps to try to help the kids in that portion of the test?
Yes, we are. So for these past 2 years, we've done a district-wide initiative with our Talk, Read, Talk, Write, where our teachers have come to holiday exchange and received the first year last summer. This year we did Talk, Read, Talk, Write 2.0, which was a focus in the writing. In addition to that, our department, in collaboration with the academics teams, both pre-K, 8th, and high school, are working with our teachers through PLCs and individual campus support with the writing. Yes, there's a change in the writing format too, with the constructor response and then the platform within itself.
Thank you.
I also wanted to ask about the writing. I think you're saying the reason that we're seeing the decrease is because of the change in format. We have a brand new, can you talk a little bit more about that change?
Yes, historically it was holistically rated by our teachers. The students would write writing samples, where a collection of writing samples was done at each campus, and it was rated by the teachers that had calibrated. This last year, 2023, the writing changed to an online platform. In addition, there was a change in the writing that was similar to the constructive response that they have in STAR.
So you said it's online, but who's the person's evaluating these writings?
Through the TA, whoever TA has. It's on the TELPAS assessment.
Okay, and how long was it done the old way before this change? How many years did we see it done?
Holistically?
Yeah.
Since TELPAS was initially created for the state of Texas. So it's a federal requirement for the state to test students for language proficiency, English proficiency. So when the state of Texas created the TELPAS, the writing was created to be rated holistically.
Was that like 10 years ago, or?
It was
maybe 20?
2003?
It's been a long
I
time.
believe 2003.
Significant for
I We've been around for so long, but I want to say TELPAS was back 2003. I
Yeah,
would need to check the exact year for you.
No, but I mean, around 20 years, right? About
Yes.
doing it one way, and then all of a sudden, there's a brand new change. I think we might expect to see a decrease. But moving forward, now that I guess we're going to become more accustomed to this new format, we expect to see the increases back, I suppose. I guess I'm optimistic.
Yeah, we do. And if you were to go back, originally listening and speaking was actually also holistically rated until TA changed that and the listening and speaking changed onto the platform. And so that year we also saw a decrease. It's the change of, going onto the platform. But we are working with our students to be familiar with the platform. In addition to our instruction, our daily instruction with our students, we also provide the Summit K-12 Literacy Connect, where our students actually are being exposed to the listening, speaking, reading, and writing as it is tested on the TELPAS assessment.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for that clarification and for your presentation. And I look forward to seeing the results over the next couple of years, especially in writing.
Yes,
Thank you.
of course.
I'd like to chime in on that because when I was teaching, I was part of that holistic testing and review by 3 other teachers, and then we'd come to a determination where the level of writing for this particular student. But I had concerns when the TEA went to online testing because my questions at that time and still at this time, that it's not a human that is evaluating these writings. It's actually some sort of AI or some program that is looking at these writings across the state. So, and then of course, it doesn't take it to account. And I haven't seen it, maybe you can answer that they have some metrics that will fit like our emerging English-speaking students compared to Far East or North Texas or anything else like that. Because the border cities have a very, we have a very special challenge here because our students are mostly Spanish-speaking. So, but the testing itself, we didn't have any choice. It went online, and it's really evaluated by a computer. So we have to work with that. And it's kind of like when we did START testing, now it's all computerized. So we just got to, when you change the game rules, you just got to see, okay, what's the new game? How can we work with it and make it best for our students so they can be successful when they take these tests. Is that correct?
And Mr. Go ahead. And Mr. Cho, you're absolutely correct. They did go into online learning, right? And so some is human scored, even though the students submitted online, and others is through the artificial intelligence. To your point about the different dialects that our students have compared to others, those are feedback that we continuously give to TEA. Our EB student, comparatively to other EB students, we would say we have the same argument. However, we're very proud of our teachers and our students because we are the top ESL district in Texas, actually. Our EB students in comparison to other groups do very well. So recently at the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators Conference, we were named the top ESL district for Texas. So yes, there's lots of work. Yes, we'll continue working and making sure that our students have the tools they need to compete and excel.
Do you have the data where you can compare where Ysleta is in comparison to other districts that are comparable to us?
Not yet, not for this year. As you know, ratings were frozen, and so that data has not been released across the state. We do have it for the previous years. I'll just use our 2 neighbors. We do outperform both districts, and when it comes to our EB students. But we hope that data will be released across the district, and we will be happy to share it with you soon.
Okay. Yeah.
And I might already should know. I should know this answer, but I don't recall, so I'll use my age as the reason. But for the writing test for ESL students as well as students who are in monolingual, did we see a shift in those scores as well? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, as you recall, a couple of months ago, right before we started STAR 2.0 testing, I came to the board and presented on STAR 2.0 and what that transition would look like. So writing used to be assessed in only fourth and seventh grade in isolation. This past year was the first year that we tested it across the board, 3 through English 8th for sure, and then English 1 and English 2. So we do have what we call short constructed responses and extended responses that our students have to reply to the question. So the question is open-ended. They have to write their answer and compose a short paragraph depending on the subject. But writing is tested throughout the different subjects now. So as before, it used to be only tested in reading language arts. You'll also see it tested in science and social studies along with math. So that was a significant change across for not only us as a district, but across the state, because it is the first time that writing was tested across the board.
So we'll see those scores eventually, and we'll be able to compare the ESL students with monolingual students and how this different format where it's not
Yes.
holistic, what that will look like. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we can definitely show regular STAR in comparisons to our EBs. This specific test that Ms. Esqueda is discussing is our TELPAS assessment, which is what our EB students take. But all students are tested in writing across, so any student testing in language arts, math, science, social studies now, 3rd through 8th, and in high school has writing in their assessments.
Okay.
Our next slide. At the beginning of the year, every Language Proficiency Assessment Committee sends a student progress report to parents as required by our evaluation process. And the Principal and Campus Committee review and revise the campus action plan. This includes the improvement of student performance for our emerging bilingual students. This is our contact information. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Nope, I think at this time you answered all our questions, and we thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will now discuss the agenda items as listed in the posted notice of the regular meeting of Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees for December 13, 2023, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action on said items at the December 13, 2023 regular Board of Trustees meeting. Please stop me if you have any questions or wish to pull an item. Consent items, approved minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting, November 15, 2023, 6 p.m. Monthly financials updates for October 2023. Okay. At this time, I would like to ask Chief Counsel Ms. Priscilla Mata to join us at the podium to provide a summary of the TASB Policy Update 122. We will take the policy as one item, and so please let me know if you have any questions or wish to pull an item for separate consideration.
Good evening, Board President Ochoa, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. I'm Priscilla Mata, your Chief Counsel here at the school district, and I'm delighted to be with you. My predecessor would visit you all every 2 years to give you a summary of some of the local updates required in your policies following a regular legislative session. So as you all are very much aware, we just came off of a regular session and some additional special sessions that seem to go nowhere. But the local policy updates that you're going to receive and consider tonight are based on the 88th regular legislative session that came to a close back in June, I believe. So let's begin. Some of the, and let me set this up by first saying that initially on November 7th, you should have received an email with a local policy update packet. It included over 900 pages of both legal policies, which kind of set the lay of the land based on that last legislative session, but also your local policies. And as a reminder, these are the ones where the board specifically takes a position where you have the discretion and authority to do so. And so we're not voting tonight on any of the legal policies. Those do not require board approval. Those are just kind of as a formality shared with you. And then eventually, once I report back to TASB on, which way you voted on these local policies, they'll make sure to incorporate all the legal policies as well. So the local policies before you span on subject matter from cybersecurity to career investigation days for students, to safety and security and student records. So if you will turn to your agenda, we'll begin with the very first one. So policy CLA local regarding buildings, grounds, and equipment management and security. This is one of those policies that TASB, in reviewing some of the changes to the law, realized needed to move. So there's nothing substantive that you're voting on with regard to CLA local. It's merely a deletion. So because that's moving to a different code in your policies, all I'm recommending tonight to the board is that we delete policy CLA local. That's going to find a new home, and we'll cover that shortly. And let me know if you have any questions. Yes, sir.
You have that in a view graph?
I'm sorry?
You have that so we can see what you're actually saying?
Yeah, so if you look at your agenda item in the rationale, you're going to get a nice highlight of why this policy is being presented to you. It's going to tell you whether it's a deletion, it's a revision, or it's an entirely new policy.
I understand that, but I would actually see the actual, what is it, the words?
Oh, sure. So if you turn to page 61 of your board book, you will see an entirely redlined policy. That's the one that's being recommended for deletion.
You'll have to give us time.
And it's entirely in red, so it's page 61. It should come up on the screen here shortly.
Yeah. What carrot?
Okay, there we go, thank you. So you'll see on the screens, you should be able to see on your screens what you currently have as policy CLA local. You'll note that it's entirely redlined, again, because that's going to find a new home elsewhere. TASB has recommended to move this language into CSA.
This is talking about keys, the instrument for operating a lock.
Right, so this policy relates to your facility security.
Oh.
And so I'll go over that policy, sir, because they didn't only find a new home for the policy, they actually revised it to add some new requirements and obligations that came about as a result of the last legislative session. So let me move on to number 2. I'll make sure to cover it in number 3, sir. So number 2 is policy CQB local, and this is for technology resources, specifically cybersecurity. And so the recommended revisions by TASB here come as a result of some changes in the law. Senate Bill 271 recognized that there's already another law that defines what a security incident is, and that's the Texas Business and Commerce Code. And so because we don't want to start new definitions in different parts of our state statutes, they decided for practical reasons, let's just follow the definition that's already codified in the Texas Business and Commerce Code. Let's adopt it, and let's make sure that we're broadening reasons when the school district has to report any of these security breaches. So it has been broadened to include the introduction of ransomware, for example, into our computer systems, and our computer networks as well. So it kind of broadened our obligations, and we do have, under law, we're required to have a coordinator. So we need to have a coordinator here at the district who is responsible and must be held accountable to report these security breaches. And we're reporting them to the Department of Information Resources, right?
Who's our coordinator?
Our coordinator is Doug Chamley. So,
I think I met him, yes.
yes, so he's with TIS, and he's the one responsible for making sure that we comply with that reporting requirement.
Who does he report these incidents
I
to?
believe he reports to Gloria
To Gloria?
Chavez.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then Gloria Chavez reports to who?
To me, sir. To
To who?
Lindley Leeper.
To Ms. Lever, sir.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Just want to know. Okay.
Are there any questions on this local policy update?
So
Yes, sir.
in the synopsis of what you just said, what did you just say?
So the current policy that you have, sir, is simply being revised to make sure that it captures the definition that's already codified in another law. And this is for practical reasons, just to simplify everyone's understanding of what the heck is a security breach or a safety and security incident.
So it's just so we can have the same language across the
It
board for
streamlines the
everybody.
definition. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. The third policy that you're considering updating tonight is policy CSA. This is the new home for that initial policy we discussed. And this one relates to your facility standards, safety and security. And so in addition to some changes that came about through House Bill 3, after the Uvalde tragedy, unfortunately, the Texas Education Commissioner was tasked by the legislative branch to put together some rules as it relates to safety, school safety and standards. And so he did that in a TEA correspondence that became effective May 31st, 2023. Some of those requirements you've already been made aware of through Ms. Leeper and the good work that she's been doing, security vestibules, and some other fencing that was required as a result of, unfortunately, again, the Uvalde tragedy. And so this new policy is going to capture that first policy that you're considering deleting tonight. And then it's also going to make sure that it doesn't specify what those new rules are, but it basically commits you all as a board to making sure that this school district complies with those new safety standards and rules.
Oh, I think we were already complying with a lot of these. Is that correct, Ms. Leeper?
Yes, sir, we are far ahead of most school districts in terms of the secure access points, in terms of key control, in terms of exterior doors, and all of those items. But it wasn't codified until the last session in the
Yes.
administrative code, and so now they have to put it in policy.
And that policy, but we were already following
Yes, sir.
those provisions on
Yes,
our
sir.
own. Okay.
That's correct. Are there any questions?
No, keep going.
No? Okay, so number 4 is policy DC local. This is your employment practices policy. And so one of the changes that came about this last legislative session was to codify into law an exception to nepotism. So generally speaking, school districts and other governmental bodies are not allowed to hire, a public official is not allowed to hire somebody that falls within a certain degree of a familial relationship, whether it's by marriage or by blood. And so unfortunately, statewide, a lot of the school districts and other entities started seeing a bus shortage. And so the legislature took it upon themselves to carve out an exception in the Texas Government Code to allow hiring of family members. Now, the one special requirement to do so is that the board do it and not anybody else. So it's a board power to actually trigger that exception and hire when nepotism is an issue. So if that were ever the case, it would come to you for action, and you all would vote to either hire the employee, the family member, or not. To the extent that the person being considered for the job is related to you as a board member, then at that point, I'm sure Mr. Safi would agree with me, you would recuse yourself and not engage in taking any action. And so policy DC local is being revised to make note of that. So you'll see that there's a reference to a different part of the policy because there's an exception to that nepotism rule.
So you're saying that for bus drivers, nepotism could be the exception?
Yes, sir.
The only concern I have is that that could grow into a prevalent problem of having the whole family be employed in that position because I've seen it happen in other areas that I was aware of, and you had uncles and brothers and sisters and cousins and everybody else and then they made excuses to make room for those people. How are we going to monitor that?
Right. And so those considerations would still have to be made. If we had a situation where we could possibly or potentially put ourselves at risk, where we have one family member supervising another one, I don't think that we'd be recommending that person for hire to the board. But thankfully, it's still within your power to vote yes or no.
So we're going to have a say-so on every employee that comes before the board?
Only as it relates to nepotism, but to my knowledge, we don't have a bus driver shortage issue like the smaller school districts have. And frankly, the government code already has an exception to nepotism for the smaller school districts, those that reside in counties with a population of 35,000 or less.
Yes. A rural area, right? This is where we're seeing the bus driver shortages in very, very small communities, right?
That's typically the case, Mr. Dwyer, yes, definitely. And so, but the legislature wanted to make sure that whether you're in a small rural area or not, that across the board you have the ability to employ a family member if and when you have to. To my knowledge, we don't have that issue.
Correct. Currently, we are almost fully staffed with drivers, and the only transportation employees that we would be bringing to the Board of Trustees are those that are related within, I believe it's 3 levels of consanguinity to the Board of Trustees. My pleasure.
And before we were even asked to make an exception for nepotism, it would mean like we have no other applicants. And like
100%, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't foresee that happening since we have increased the hourly rate for our bus drivers. We haven't seen a significant shortage. And we would definitely exhaust all possible revenues before we would go there.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
And one last note, Mr. Ochoa, so back to your question and your point, if we are in a situation where we have several family members coming to us for the same or similar jobs or a supervisory role over another family member, your current policy already dictates that we cannot have the family member who's currently an employee of the district actually recommending to you all as the authority for hire their family members. So if it does come in the form of recommendation, and like Ms. Russell Garcia is saying, it's very unlikely, it would not be coming from the family member employed by the school district. It would have to be considered by someone who is neutral and not related to that candidate. And so we'll make sure of that if it ever comes to you, we'll make sure we do our due diligence before so. The last revision to DC local is on the following page, and you'll note this is basically just an update to your policy. It is already your current practice, but it delegates to your superintendent the authority to dismiss non-contractual employees on an at-will basis. This does not include your certified employees with contracts. Those are still afforded and entitled under law to due process before they are considered for termination. Are there any questions? So we'll move on to the next local policy, and that's policy EHB local. This is your curriculum design and special programs. And these are revisions that are necessary to comply with House Bill 3928. This requires the board to adopt and implement a policy requiring the district to comply with all rules and standards adopted by the State Board of Education and guidance published by the Commissioner of Education to implement the program to test students for dyslexia and related disorders. So back in 2018, the Department of Education began an investigation in the state of Texas because the allegations were that we were underreporting students who are otherwise entitled to special education services, to include those that are entitled to dyslexia services. And so the Department of Education came to an agreement with the state of Texas and said, if you comply with the corrective action plan and make sure that we are actually doing better to identify these students, then you'll be off the hook. And they completed their requirements and obligations, the state of Texas did, back this summer. What came as a result of that investigation and those findings, however, are this policy before you. And it's basically a new law that was enacted, I think September 1st is when it went into effect, that requires us now to inform parents that if we suspect your student of having dyslexia and we feel that he or she may be entitled to related services, we have to notify you, number one, but we also have to do it if and when we are placing your students in a disciplinary alternative education program. So in that same placement order that we're issuing to parents where we're telling them your student is going to Cesar Chavez, for example, for 45 days, in that same order, we're also required to add language that says if you suspect your student of being dyslexic or want a full and independent evaluation done on your student to determine whether or not they qualify for special education services, then this is the person to contact. And so Diana Moy and I, as well as Mr. Medina, worked on revising our forms, revising our student handbook, and also our student code of conduct to reflect this new law. So in addition to the local policy before you, we've done some revisions on the back end as well.
I got a question. Dr. Chacon, who usually evaluates our children with dyslexia, and kind of, I guess when we see that, who's the one that picks that up? Our teachers?
So initially, because of the changes that Ms. Mata presented, so there's several layers now. The first layer is the teacher. Mm-hmm. And we provide through our assessments, which is iStation or M-Class that they use, if they're not meeting certain phonics, certain points of phonics at that point, that triggers the first assessment. So the teachers do report, hey, the student is struggling phonemically in the following areas. From there, it goes to the response team, response to intervention team, RTI, and if we do suspect that the student does have dyslexia or any other learning disability, specifically regarding reading, then it is referred to the diagnostician. Dyslexia does live now under the special ed umbrella. So the DIAG is the one that initiates dyslexia testing as referred by the teacher, but usually our teacher is our first point of person to come and tell us, I see some concerns. The next piece is the parent piece. So if the parent suspects that their child has some dyslexia tendencies or again is not grasping the curriculum in reading language arts specifically for that grade level, then they have the right to also request the assessment for dyslexia. As you recall, we have an interventionist at each campus that provides these services, and we also have, through David Medina's department, the special ed director, we also have a direct coordinator for dyslexia services that provides this information across this district.
Thank you.
So under this policy, the parent has a little bit more say-so in requesting this testing?
This one is specifically for training opportunities, right? So that we have to provide consistently training on how to, with the procedures and how to catch dyslexia, signs of dyslexia, early signs of intervention. But the parent always does have the right to request the assessment, either for the learning disability or dyslexia.
At what age would the intervention begin, or if a parent sees, you know what, I see my child struggling with reading, does it, at any age, can they come to their teacher, or? What other?
Typically, it starts right around first and second grade. Of obviously, pre-K and kinder are the foundations of phonics, and where they're barely learning those skills. So you typically see it in second grade. Third grade is where we really do start catching it. If they exhibit signs immediately, then again, you'll be able to catch it simply by the work that the teachers do every day. Flipping of the letters from the B's to your D's to your Q's and your P's, certain sounds, certain things like that. That's where they catch it.
The next policy being considered tonight for revisions is EHBC. This is one of the policies that is being recommended for deletion. There's nothing substantive here, and it's simply being rehomed in a different code. It's actually being proposed to be moved to EHBCA local. Number 7 is policy EHBCA local, and that's your compensatory services and intensive programs, accelerated instruction. This is one of the areas that changed quite a bit as a result of the 88th legislature. And so one of the big takeaways was that the legislature did away with the accelerated learning committees. Those are no longer required. Accelerated instruction is still, however, a right that's afforded to students upon parent request. And the other big change was that instead of allowing accelerated instruction for grades 3, 5, and 8, now it's grades 3 through 8. And so another noteworthy change here is that parents, upon a student not passing satisfactorily one of the state assessments, state mandated assessments, have the right to request the teacher of their choice for the following school year. And so we were discussing, Dr. Chacon and I, whether that would present any challenges to us as a district. We don't believe so, and I believe we've had maybe one request, one parent request for a teacher of choice since this was a thing back in 2021, was it? So we don't anticipate any of those challenges should we receive a parent request for a teacher of choice.
There is, I'm sure we'll be able to deal with it according to the policy and make sure that that parent's voice is heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And teacher requests happen all the time. This isn't anything new to our principals. Specifically, this one is in regard to failing an assessment and having the ability to choose a teacher of their choice.
The next local policy being considered tonight is policy FEA local. This is your attendance, compulsory attendance policy. This one changed to allow under Senate Bill 68 students the opportunity to explore careers, and doing so by visiting professional workspace during a school day. So this is one way that they could have an absence excused if and when they're doing so their junior and senior year, and they get up to 2 excused absences each school year, starting with their junior year. And so this doesn't have to be allowed. The district has discretion to allow it or not, but it seems like it is fruitful for our students. Yes, sir.
Can you give me an example of this?
Yeah, so you all may recall Take Your Daughter to Work Day or Take Your Son to Work Day. It's similar to that, but it's really geared toward our higher level students, our juniors and our seniors in high school, as we're preparing them for the real world. And so if a junior were to say, you know what, I'm really interested in mechanical engineering or cybersecurity, and I want to spend the day with Mr. Ochoa, can I do that and get an excused absence? Under this policy, you sure can. Okay. You sure can. And so we see a direct benefit.
But it has to be a certified place of business or something for
Yes.
them to attend.
So the policy would still require us to receive some sort of documentation in support of that career investigation. It can't just be a Joe Schmo off the street and you're really playing hooky. We have to document for our files that absence in order to excuse it. Yes, ma'am.
So I notice in one of the other policies that's coming up that it's allowing some school visits also, 2-day school visits, right? And what I'm thinking is so this is a total of 4 days then, really, then, not just the 2?
It's
Do you
2
have the
school days per school year.
Do you have the option, though, to do all, I mean, to do your college visits and, but still get the 2 days?
That's correct. So it's in addition to the college visits.
So
That is
then, in other
correct.
words, you could have up to 4 days. That would be 2 for here and 2 for there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. You're right.
And
Any other
correct me
questions?
if I'm wrong,
Yes,
but
sir.
I think our CTE does that with the internships right now.
I believe so, especially if it's the work-study program tied to one of our CTE programs.
That is correct, Mr. Bustillos. Currently, our CT students are in that particular field, but that's embedded within the curriculum. So when they're part of the CTE program, that particular, either going to the workplace or internship with architects, so on and so forth, is embedded within the curriculum. So that does not require the student to be absent. That requires the student to attend class, and within the 3-hour block, they have the ability to go to the different workplaces that program offers.
Thank you.
Does somebody in a CTE program, do they still get those 2 days if they want to explore? So if you're in a CTE program, you're not eligible for that?
I mean, they obviously can. If you approve this, they can. But their practicum, their work experience is embedded within the course. So they have the opportunity to go to the workplace every day. Now, let's say that they want an additional day to visit Mr. Ochoa, then they can definitely request that. But their practicum, their work experience is embedded in the CTE course. They're always welcome, if you approve this policy, to take that additional day.
And again, it's a maximum of 2 days per student for
Correct.
any student in the
That's
district.
correct.
And you have to be a junior or senior.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
you get 2 days during your junior year, and then you get an additional 2 days during your senior year.
Okay, 2 per year.
It's per school year, starting at your junior year. And then, as Ms. Woodruff mentioned, it is in addition to the excused absences that they are already entitled to under policy to visit a college campus or university.
Thank you.
Sure. So the next policy being considered tonight is your FFAC local, and this is your Wellness and Health Services Medical Treatment Policy. This one came about through Senate Bill 629, and this is the one that unfortunately came about to try and target the opioid overdose issues and epidemic in the state. And so this one allows us to train our personnel at each campus. It only requires us to train one person per campus for grades 6 through 12. We've gone above and beyond that, and we've trained every single nurse at every single campus, from our pre-K students, and every facility actually has Narcan available to them. We use the Narcan nasal spray. And so once we have properly trained our staff members, they are allowed under law to administer that Narcan if they have a reasonable suspicion that someone is actually going through an overdose, an opioid overdose. And so that's been very useful. In addition to that, my understanding is that our security officers are all in possession on their person with Narcan, readily available should they have to use that. And I know that at least in a few instances, we've already had to administer Narcan. So this is the policy that allows us to administer, and this is also the policy that specifically carves out immunity for these purposes, so long as we have that reasonable belief that someone is going through an opioid-related overdose.
There's no liability to the district?
There shouldn't be. We would have the defense of immunity. So we could still get dragged into court, but we have a defense that's been carved out by the legislature for that purpose. So policy FFB local is also being considered tonight. This is for student welfare crisis intervention. This one came about through House Bill 3, and if you recall, House Bill 3 is the law that required us to roll out a plan for armed defenders at each campus during regular school hours. And so under this policy, it allows us to guarantee confidentiality to employees who are reporting some sort of a threat, either against themselves or to another person or to a student. But it also requires us to set out a clear procedure for notifying the school district if there is a threat afoot. And so we've been using, to comply with this law, Speak Up, and that is available to our students and staff, and that allows reports of bullying, reports of school shootings, you name it. Speak Up really captures kind of that hotline aspect that we provide to our community members and our students. And so these are kind of policies that are coming at the back end of the legislative session. So we've already been working diligently since these laws were enacted to make sure that we were in compliance with these. They're coming to you for your approval, of course, but they're really capturing what the legislature has tasked upon the school districts. And so policy FL, student records, this one is not substantive. This is basically revising the policy to delete any references to those accelerated learning committees. Those are no longer required under law. So if you look at this policy, you'll see some pretty non-substantive changes to this policy. The last policy for your consideration is policy GKG Local Community Relations School Volunteer Program. And Senate Bill 763 came about and obligates the school districts to decide one way or another if they're either going to employ chaplains or allow them to volunteer. In my discussions with other ISDs and other school attorneys, it was recommended that the school districts consider incorporating into their volunteer programs anyone who has the ability or the interest to provide volunteer services to our students, but mainly as it relates to grief counseling. And so this policy is being recommended not so much to replace our counselors or any other staff members who are already required to provide student support services, but simply to serve on an as-needed basis if and when we would need any additional grief counseling. God forbid something happen, something major, and we'd have to partner up with volunteers. But we already do that. From my understanding, we have community partnerships like with Emergence Health Network, and so these are folks who already use chaplains in their line of work as well. And so you don't necessarily have to approve a policy to employ them, but what's being recommended is that you simply include them in your volunteer program. And remember that your volunteers, because we're schools, are required to go through a background check. So no one gets into our schools without going through HR and their fantastic background work. And so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them up.
I think this is a very interesting consideration. I would like to speak what my view is on this particular policy item. We already have a volunteer program, and we also, as you just stated, we have other methods of accessing grief counseling and other type of crisis intervention counseling when needed. This makes me extremely uncomfortable because while we do background checks and things of that nature, I feel that this could open the door to all kinds of different, what if it's not a Christian chaplain? What if it's a different religion? What if it's somebody? I believe as parents, we have the right to take our children wherever we want for that type of religious intervention. We have those choices. I have a real discomfort for opening that door in the schools, even if it's for the grief specific, it's still opening the door to that. And I really do believe in a strong separation of church and state. Church and state. Ma'am. So that's pretty much my view on that.
And we've considered those things from a legal standpoint as well. We've also looked at the possibility, what sort of liability could we be facing if we specifically exclude a type of profession? And so we also don't want to do that, and we assure you, and if you look at the policy on page 92 of your board book, it doesn't give chaplains necessarily any priority. It doesn't isolate them as a group either. It simply states, because we have to do this by law, it has to come to the board for discussion and some sort of action. We simply adopted a new policy that would capture chaplains as a volunteer group if and when we needed their services for grief counseling. And it has to be for the reasons outlined in the policy. So it can't be for religious teachings or Bible studies. It has to specifically be for whatever we need, and it has to be tied in either to support or enhance teaching and learning based on our curriculum. And so we have those parameters. We have a way to prohibit any outside indoctrination, if you will, because parental rights are, found in the Constitution. This does not trump your constitutional rights as a parent. We guarantee that.
Which is broad. A parent, a chaplain could come in, and it can be very broad in their interpretation, and then we end up in a court case. But this, as I understand, is a policy we can either choose to adopt or not choose to adopt as a board, correct?
That is correct.
And there are no consequences either way.
You have to, you simply have to take a position as to whether you're going to, how you're going to use chaplains, if at all, is my understanding. So we have a few options tonight. So you can either make a motion once we get to those agenda items, because we're still in workshop. But on your agenda, you have for your consideration adopting this policy, but you have another agenda item under board action to also entertain approving the resolution related to this policy. Again, not authorizing employment of chaplains to replace any of our counselors or other staff members, but simply to make sure that it's understood to the legislature that we allow chaplains to come in as volunteers, just like anybody else, so long as they meet our requirements under this policy, GKG local.
What are the requirements for a chaplain besides being able to pass a background check?
So I believe we have a training program. Once they go through the criminal background check, I believe they actually have to be trained, and I believe they go through Ms. Russell Garcia's department.
No, we do, the background checks for volunteers comes through District Initiatives and Affairs,
right.
but I personally approve any volunteers that do have some form of negative background check. On top of that, they do speak with Josie Goldner, who oversees our volunteer program, and they're given additional information. Once they get to the campus, they're notified of what the expectations are. So the expectations are going to be very different if you have a parent that's volunteering in the classroom versus a chaplain that's coming. So in the event that we do adopt this, we'll certainly need to create some sort of program that establishes our expectations and requirements.
Okay, then, so if this is approved, then a training program will be created?
We can absolutely do that. If that is what the board prefers, we can meet with each of the chaplains that do enter our campuses and lay out what our expectations are. Also, please remember that before we put a chaplain anywhere near our students, the parents are going to have to give us authorization to have that person with the child. We wouldn't just do that. So, for example, if there was a parent that practices Catholicism, we're not going to put a Presbyterian chaplain with them if the parent does not want that to happen. And it would have to be at the approval of the parent. And we can certainly get that in writing prior to doing anything of that nature.
Would a training program that's being created need board approval?
We can certainly bring it back to you if you'd like and do a presentation on it.
Probably, I think so. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Just out of curiosity, would we be, if we adopt this and we allow chaplains and other religions to be able to perform this particular service, will we have training for each of the same training can be adjusted for all nominations?
Absolutely. And you have to remember, we are never going to allow any adult to be with any child unless the parent authorizes it. It's just like when we have outside counselors that come in and work with students. They have to go through the background check, but also they have to complete a parent permission slip in order to be face-to-face with that child. So it's 100% unlikely that that would ever happen because we don't let any adults have access to a child without parent authorization, excuse me.
Is there a requirement to have those words employ in there?
No, sir. So the choices are to employ chaplains or use them in a volunteer position.
So this means that we can employ any volunteer.
No, the volunteer program is not for employees. Employment would be employing them as a school district employee. Our volunteer program actually encompasses our community partnerships too. So that's our Partners in Education, that's Emergence Health Network. These are outside entities or outside persons or professionals that we allow to come into our campuses to provide some sort of support to our students, whether it's outside counseling or some enriched enhancement to whatever they're learning at the moment, but it's not on an employment basis. And we want to distinguish that.
Yeah, because at the beginning you said this chaplain would be just like any of our other volunteers, but this policy is really focusing on chaplains.
No, the policy itself does not specify that it's for chaplains. The resolution adds a little bit more color to the policy, but the policy basically lays out the volunteer program for those three areas in prongs 1 through 3. So it's not a chaplain-based policy. It lays out kind of the parameters of what we would be using our volunteers for when it relates to our students. How do we supplement what we need through a volunteer program for the students, whether it's the grief counseling or enhancing their learning and education, but it's not specific to chaplains.
So what's the difference between our regular volunteers?
We actually didn't have a regular volunteer policy that was geared toward supporting students.
So again, this is making an exception for chaplains.
No, it is embracing everyone who meets the requirements, and that would be inclusive of chaplains.
So to be employed, you have to be a chaplain, have we decided?
No, we're not speaking about employment. We're speaking about volunteers. Volunteers are not paid and not employed by the school district.
Right there it says the law permits districts to employ.
Right, employ or use as a volunteer. And so in this policy, we're not saying anything about employment. What we are recommending is that our volunteer opportunities be inclusive of chaplains. We're not asking you to allow us to employ chaplains. That is not what we're doing.
This is the policy on page 75?
It's on 92, sir.
92?
Yes, sir.
President Ochoa.
Just something for your consideration is that it is likely that at some point we have had pastors, chaplains, deacons, all types of people in our schools helping kids. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't ask volunteers what they do for a living or whether or not they serve as a deacon at their church.
No,
So they are already likely around our kids, grandparents, grandmas, who may have a full-time job in the day, but serve as a deacon or a chaplain or in another capacity with the church in the community on a Sunday.
So why do we need this additional policy? And just out of curiosity, what does support and enhance teaching and learning, what would that be doing? I'm really struggling with singling out chaplains, even in the resolution. It is specific to chaplains, even for volunteer. We already open our arms and our doors to all volunteers. So
Right.
singling them out it doesn't sit well.
And we're not singling them out, but the law requires us to embrace them one way or another. And so we're simply clarifying policy to say that our volunteer program is open to anybody whether chaplains or not, we didn't come up with any priority for chaplains. The state of Texas did, for one reason or another. And so we have to make sure that we're still respecting separation of church and state. And so we can do so, and there's no danger to it, so long as our volunteer programs set those parameters. And so we're not allowing them to come into the schools, again, for Bible study or any agenda-related reasons. It's simply to provide, as needed, support to our students. And I've seen it done in, unfortunately, these tragedies that we see, the mass shootings. So it does not tie our hands, but we do have to clear it up. By law, we have to specify how we're going to use these chaplains. And so Austin ISD, for example, has already approved something similar. They've approved a resolution and a policy that allows their volunteer programs to also invite and embrace chaplains if and when the campuses need them. So it is still within our discretion to use them on an as-needed basis. And unfortunately, the law requires us to take action one way or another before March.
I'm looking at GKG local right now.
Yes. Yes, sir.
But it's on page 75 in our board book, so I just wanted to see, can you actually read the whole thing for me so we are on the same page?
Yes, so I think it's on your screen, GKG Local, which is titled Community Relations School Volunteer Program.
Yes, page 75.
And so this starts with, the district shall use volunteers to provide assistance in areas that, number one, support and enhance teaching and learning. Number two, support the welfare of the students and or staff. And three, support the district in other areas of need. Application, all prospective volunteers shall submit an application form as provided by the district. Criminal history record check, the district shall obtain the criminal history record for prospective volunteers when required by law or the district. Once received, the district shall determine the person's eligibility and inform approved volunteers when their services are to begin. District volunteers shall work directly under the supervision of the campus principal or a district employee in accordance with administrative regulations. Administrative regulations shall be established regarding the volunteer application process, qualifications, training, duties, and other relevant information about the district's volunteer program. Volunteers shall complete district training requirements prior to participating in the district's volunteer program.
And that is it. That is what we're going to vote on.
This is the policy being considered.
So there it has no distinction of who the volunteer could be.
That's correct.
There's no mention of, like, the rationale. There's no mention of that in this policy as worded on the rationale.
No, this is the model policy that TASB put together based on the law that's requiring us to take a position on how we're going to use chaplains.
It's pretty vanilla type policy. It's not making any distinction on any particular volunteer.
No, and the resolution, like I said, kind of colors up the policy to make sure that we're meeting that legal requirement to take a position one way or another as to how we're going to use our chaplains.
Does anybody have a question on this?
Ms. Woodruff has a good clarification.
Well, let's see if I'm going to get this word that everybody understands. So basically, to me, what you're saying is that this is the policy that whether we can, that shows how volunteers are going to be used in the district. But the resolution, on the other hand, deals more specifically with chaplains and their role in our school district. Am I asking the right question? I don't know.
Yes, and I understand what you're asking. And so the policy, again, because we're not singling out chaplains or giving them any special access, right, to our students, the policy has to remain neutral. And governmental entities are required not to discriminate or favor groups or entangle itself with any sort of religion, right? And so the policy, again, recommended by TASB and put together by TASB Policy Services and their legal department, is recommending this policy to be inclusive of anyone, right? And so the resolution, however, is used to further support that we're complying under law and taking this to the board for action one way or another. Tell us how we can use chaplains here at Ysleta ISD. And so we're recommending we already do, let's make sure that they're inclusive of our volunteer program participants. So.
Who is in charge of our volunteer program?
Was it Josie Goldner?
Josie Goldner, under Monica Bustillos in District of Initiatives and Affairs, and they report to Mrs. Leeper.
Josie who?
Josie.
So, let me get this straight. If we vote on this policy, it doesn't affect the resolution.
It does not.
The resolution stands by itself.
It does.
Okay.
It does. I would recommend having a policy because the board has to take action, and it's better to have something in writing that we can point our visitors to and our volunteers to. And so the resolution is just kind of a companion in support of the board's action.
We don't need the resolution as long as we adopt this policy.
Right. The minutes of this meeting would suffice. You're correct.
So policy is, as far as it's written, I think it's pretty plain, generic. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
And those are the only local policies up
Is
for
that it?
consideration.
I wanted more.
That is it, sir.
Well, I'm sorry.
Another question, yes, sir.
Yes.
I just want to continue with the clarification of, so the chaplain is wording that came from the state asking school boards to take action on chaplains, right? But in practice, we're not really doing anything different. It's just the state said, hey, you guys need to talk about this. So it's almost
Right.
a formality.
Yes, it is. You are correct, because it doesn't change our practice. And I think you said it more succinctly than I did. And so our practice is to welcome any volunteers, subject to them meeting our requirements. And so, no, we're not opening a special door for chaplains.
I'm guessing there's probably other districts across the state that said, we're not having any chaplains, or something in the state
Oh, yes.
legislation said, no, we're going to have school districts consider them? Because we could still reject chaplains? Is that an option? Or
We are required to have the discussion and take a position as to how we're going to use them, if at all. And so because there is potential liability in discriminating against this particular group and excluding this certain group, we are making sure that we're taking a neutral position forward and saying, well, our practice is already to be inclusive of this group. We're not using them for any purpose other than what is stated here in policy, and that is in support of our students and staff as needed.
very good.
That was much better, sir.
This was fun, right?
I got
This
one more
was fun.
question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Safi, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Ochoa, the trustees. The policy does not use the word chaplain, as you've now noted. The policy is a completely neutral, it's just so you can have a policy on volunteers. And it's a good idea to have a policy on volunteers. And that's all this does. The resolution is a separate thing. And it addresses, when you get to it, it addresses, as required by the legislature, it addresses chaplains. And it does not say you're going to employ chaplains as chaplains. As Dr. De La Torre pointed out, you probably have employees now that serve as deacons, that might be ordained ministers and so forth, but you don't employ them as deacons. You don't employ them as ministers. You employ them as teachers and so forth. And so you want to avoid saying you're not going to hire people who are chaplains, but you're not going to hire chaplains. You're not going to hire people to serve as chaplains. Okay? But you can hire somebody who is an ordained minister or so forth to be a teacher or whatever. And I think the resolution clarifies that you're not going to discriminate against somebody because they're a chaplain, but you're not going to hire people to be chaplains.
Okay.
And so I think that satisfies the requirement of the state. I think part of the legislation obviously grew out of the Uvalde tragedy. Okay, it grew out of that, and the author of the bill noted school districts need help, and so I think part of the motivation behind the bill was to clarify that school districts can hire and have volunteers, people who are chaplains, but they don't have to hire them as such to serve as a chaplain. So I think that it wanted to assure districts that someone's not disqualified from being an employee or a volunteer simply because they're a chaplain. You couldn't do that. I mean, you wouldn't be able to. You can't discriminate on that basis, because that would be religious discrimination. You can't discriminate against somebody because they are a deacon or they are a minister or anything else, as long as they meet your employment requirements. Of course, proselytizing is out. You know, you can't have school district employees or volunteers proselytizing to students, trying to persuade them to adopt a particular religious view. And of course, if they are ordained minister, then of course, if the parent, as pointed out, if the parent consents, then that's different. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it, and I think the policy is, as put by Mr. Choi, it's very plain vanilla. Doesn't even mention chaplains.
The challenge I see is, I think we understand what you're saying, and it took us, about 30 minutes for this one. But my concern is, how are we going to translate to our parents and that have our children in school? They're going to say, they approved a chaplain for YISD. How are we going to communicate that to the parents and making it plain and not so much in legal terms, but somehow communicate that to them?
I'll be surprised if in practice any change is noticed. Really.
And we're kind of beating the horse here, but if we have this policy in place, the resolution essentially is singling out chaplains, because we're saying we're not going to discriminate against chaplains per se. But why aren't we, if that's the case, then we would include all the rest of the nominations in there. So essentially, we are singling out chaplains by approving the resolution. If we just adopt the policy, we're good. We're saying we're not going to single out chaplains, but we are going to allow anybody who passes the background check and all the other training programs related to that to volunteer, whether they're a chaplain or not, or whether they're a priest, whatever they will be allowed to volunteer at the district.
The issue is, if I might, as pointed out by Ms. D'Amata, the issue is the bill that requires that the board, within 6 months of passage of the bill, to address chaplains specifically. Okay? It's not telling you have to hire them. It's not telling you anything. It just says you have to address them one way or the other. And what I would recommend is, when you get to the resolution, look at it very carefully the way you have this policy language. Is what I would recommend. And
So you say we have 6 months to make this decision?
From the time the bill passed.
So we have some time. We don't have to do it tonight.
Well, have you calculated the deadline, Ms. D'Amata?
So you have until March of this coming year.
So we have two more board meetings where we can
Possibly
understand,
3. Yes, sir.
understand how this is going to work.
Okay, just one question. Could anybody tell me a number? How many volunteers apply per year? What are the numbers are we talking about?
We have 36,000 students, so I would venture to say we have 10,000 parents that request to be a volunteer, if not more, every year. It's less? How many is it?
Yeah, we have about, in the past, pre-COVID, it was about 10,000. Oh, you can see on my, sorry.
Sorry, hello, Monica Bustillos, District Initiatives and Affairs. So pre-COVID, we had about 9,000. Right now, we're back up to about 4,000 or 5,000 that are applying, and the majority of them do get approved.
I didn't ask that question.
Good, all right.
I was just curious. I didn't know.
So let me get this in. We can adopt the policy, but we can postpone the vote on the resolution up until February.
Up until March when it's required under
Well,
law.
you said March 1st, so I don't
No,
think.
no, end of March.
Oh, end of
March
March.
this
Oh,
coming
okay.
year. Yes, sir.
So I would like, my point of view on that is that I would like to see this resolution, how it really implemented and how it affects other school districts that have adopted it already. So, but that's my opinion on that.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think you, but if we think of them, we'll call you back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's already turning out to be a pretty lengthy night, but I welcome all these questions. I think they're very good and informative for us, the board, as well as our community. But I would suggest we take a 5-minute break. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. It's 8:17. We'll.
That's fine.
We shall continue with the workshop. Now we're going to go to the action items. Approve amendment to PO number 2220248. Well, let me start again. Approve amendment to PO number 222022428, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Edgemere Elementary School.
I have some questions on, actually, it's all four of these KWA engineering things, so I guess we can just kind of hit them all at once here. I'm a little confused, and I know we received a BC that did explain somewhat, but I'm kind of confused about what the purpose of this person that we want to hire, exactly what he's going to be doing. I'm also kind of wondering how that plays into our warranties and all of the things that go along with that, and whether, I don't really understand, if we've already, have the roofs already been put on, and he's looking at them now. I just have a lot of questions about exactly what this engineering company is doing.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to actually address all four of them at the same time because the answers apply to all four. So if you will, we engage a roofing consultant because we have over or about 8 million square foot of roof. A roof on a campus is generally about a $3 million job. So if we have to go replace one, it's going to cost us about $3 million. The life on it should be between 25 and 30 years. And this particular consultant, these are the only four you're seeing. This particular consultant has worked on every single roof. And the type of work that they may do includes looking at any roof leak that we have on an existing roof. They help us identify causes, they help us make the repairs, and they do it in such a way that we never void our warranty. So if you think about, we had 13 campuses that needed life cycle renovations or refrigerated air conversion. That means we took the roof off effectively. And if we didn't take the roof off, we lifted a unit and put another one back down on top of a roof curb. And so there are all sorts of things involved in that particular kind of work. We don't have the manpower or the expertise to cover 8 million square feet of roof for the entire time frame that we're talking about. So they help us with each of those kinds of tasks. Plus, they come to every single construction meeting for every single project. They inspect the roof at least twice a week on every single project. They are there, for instance, we recently had a roof replacement that was underway and it rained. They were there the day after rain and said, no, you weren't dried in. You must pull that roofing product back and you must allow it to dry until it tests a certain level of dryness. So it lacks a certain level of moisture. And they were there at every opportunity then to test and make sure before the subcontractor could put that sheet back down. So they help us with construction, with design, with reviewing our specifications, with the testing, and with repairs after the fact. And they are, in fact, this particular contractor or firm is the one that helped us get a $3 million claim approved for hail damage, which we would not have had we not had a contractor on board with this type of expertise. So it is a variety of services. It covers the entire district. The only reason you're seeing changes is because these particular schools needed additional oversight or involvement by the contractor.
Because of complications in
for two different things. At the two Eastwood Community Learning or schools, East Point and Edgemere, those roofs were being overseen by a contractor that we didn't have extreme confidence in, if you will. We were worried about them. The contractor, not the roofing subcontractor. But because the general contractor oversees the roofing subcontractor, I wanted extra eyes more often on that roof, making sure what the roofing subcontractor was doing would live up to the warranty, would get us the things we need and met our specifications. So we asked them to be present more frequently on those two roofs. That's Edgemere and East Point. On Loma Terrace and Sageland, I took two great big patio sections and enclosed them and created classrooms. They were dirt. It was wide open space, right? So we went in and enclosed those and put a roof on them. That work was nowhere in our original PO for their services at Sageland. At Loma Terrace, you saw it yesterday, it has that beautiful new administrative area and canopy. That work was not in the original scope of work, so we had to add it to their services so that we could ensure we got the same type of roof, same warranty, same oversight, same testing, all of those things. Does that make sense?
It does. So are you saying that most of these roofs have already, that these 4 roofs have already been put in?
Yes, ma'am. To the extent of the work that's here, yes, ma'am. The roofs are done.
So what is
Well-
his role now?
So he continues as our roofing consultant throughout the district. The firm continues as our roofing consultant throughout the district for a variety of projects. Riverside
Right.
Middle is still ongoing. They're still on that project.
But I'm talking about for these, so he hasn't been paid for work that he's already done? That's
Yes,
what you're
ma'am.
saying?
That is correct.
Okay.
And at Sageland, if you will, and at Edgemere, there's additional roof work that will be done on another contract. So Sageland, I still have the canopy and administrative area to build. It's going to get a roof. So I'm going to need more services.
So that's going to be upcoming?
Upcoming. At Edgemere, we will do additional roof work because we are looking to replace some units and do some other work there. So I will have another contract there. But the original contractor is relieved on both Sageland and Edgemere.
So I guess my quandary is, so he's already done this work.
Yes, ma'am.
Should this not have come to us
Yes,
before
ma'am.
he did?
Should have come to me before he did it.
But he did it.
He
kind
did it
of
because we
on his-
requested the services. So if you notice, this is a master contract.
Right.
So let me back up and talk about a master contract, if you will.
Mhm.
These are engineering services. They are acquired under a different type of solicitation. We go
Mhm.
out and determine who's the most qualified that's submitted a proposal. Not who's the cheapest, not who has the best value, but who's the most qualified to do the work. Once we identify who the most qualified is, then we negotiate pricing with them. Then, because we know the services are going to last for several periods, and in fact, this one was awarded June of 2021. So
Wow.
they've been under contract all that time. We negotiated the contract with them, and then what we do under the master contract is say, okay, I'm going to work on this campus. We estimate you're going to do this work at this campus.
Mhm.
And so they get a purchase order to do that work at that campus. We've done 13 life cycle renovations to date. You're seeing 4 campuses. You saw 2 last month, though, that I also brought to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Every one of those, I changed the scope on. So for Loma Terrace and Sageland, when we decided to consolidate Mesa
Mhm.
Vista at those campuses, we said we're not going to spend the money at Mesa Vista.
Mhm.
We're going to increase the scope of work at 2 schools. Well, in 2021, we didn't know we were going to do that. So
Right.
when we gave the original purchase order, we hadn't told them yet. This is going to be your increased scope of work because we didn't know. So yes, the purchase order was done much longer ago, and now we're saying, yes, he did do additional work. And I'll be frank with you, if I had known it, I would have said, I still want you to do it, and I'll still go ratify the change order because I don't want them stopping work that costs me much more money to say, wait, halt, I need to go get this purchase order changed, and then I'll come back to you. By then, I've given up 6 months of construction time, which is way more expensive than coming here and having to defend the fact that he's already done the work and I'm asking you to ratify
Right.
the change order.
Right.
I have a question on the, on the scope of work for these roofs. The actual cost for that roofing, construction, it's not here. I
That's
just want
right,
to,
because they're unrelated.
well, I just want to know, like, some of them are a little different. One of them, like 69 hours for QA/QC. What is that?
Quality control, quality check,
And that's
quality assurance and quality
reviewed by
control.
That's 69 hours at $200 an hour. So can you explain quality check, quality
Yes, sir.
control?
He's on the site. He's working with the subcontractor to ensure that the roof is applied according to Carlisle specifications to make sure we get the warranty that will last 25 to 30 years. If he sees what they call a fish mouth, Mr. Bustillos may know what that is. It's a little bubble in the roof.
So
If-
the observations are still the same person?
Yes,
So he's getting paid $95 an hour for
it
that?
depends. Mr. Draper is the engineering vice president of the organization. Mr. Carroll is the actual inspector that generally is on the roof. He often walks them with me
So that's $95 an hour,
if he's just observing.
and
If
then
he's-
69 hours at the same thing, he's observing. That's $200 an hour. And then provide observation reports to each site visit to the owner, which is us, I guess. Is that true? Including photographs, which are, like in this one, it's 138 hours for $75 an hour. So the lump sum for this whole, and I think I'm looking at, the lump sum at East Point is $39,120. The lump sum for the other schools, based on just these four, is $82,047.50. The other two that we took action on the previous board meeting was $42,432.50, which gives us a whole total of $124,480 for just consulting. Is that correct?
I'll do you one better. We've paid this firm $1 million since June of 2021. We are talking about $240 million worth of roofing product and roof work.
Well,
So-
and that's what I'm asking. What is, you said it's not related, but what he's consulting for this particular, you brought it here for this particular action item on this particular school.
Yes,
For
sir.
this particular work,
Yes, sir.
and it's roofing.
It's
Nothing
roofing
else.
consulting.
No, but he's consulting on the roof that's being placed in these schools.
Yes, sir.
That's what I wanted to find out, what was the cost for the roofing itself,
For just these campuses?
for all 6 campuses.
I don't have it in front of me. I can probably get it in just a few minutes, probably about the time you vote on it.
I think we need more information on this action item.
Okay. So you want to know the total cost for roofing consulting on each of these roofs as well as the cost of each of these roofs?
Yes.
Okay,
And,
I can have that for you by the time you're ready to vote.
I have a question. What would be the consequence if the board were to vote no on these 4 items?
He won't get paid,
And that's it?
and he has the right under the master contract to file suit against us
Okay, so there could be a suit filed against us for not paying
for breach of contract.
Okay. You put us, I feel like we're in a tough position having that these were already, and it's like, well, I think it's what I'm thinking and saying, so.
I would like to jump in. If KWA is not paid, what happens to the warranties, the 30-year warranty on all of these roofs? Are they gone?
No, sir. The warranty is provided by the manufacturer. In general, that's Carlisle Manufacturing. They facilitate protecting the warranty. So envision, if you will, that there's a section of the roof that was maybe done 2 years ago or done in 2015. They weren't the consultant in 2015, but the roof was done then. Now I need to go back in because we did, Rio Bravo is a great example. Rio Bravo was evaporatively cooled. In 2015, we did a lot of work there. In 2019, the bond passed and we said, oh, now we're going to convert to refrigerated air. So I have a brand new roof, brand new evaporative units. To protect that warranty, I have to have someone oversee all of the work, and it has to be a certified certified by Carlisle and observed by this group in order to protect that warranty. So we could have done the entire $3 million roof at Rio Bravo, and it would have been a complete waste of money if we had not adhered to all of the specifications by Carlisle and had somebody like KWA on the roof observing, ensuring that Carlisle said, yes, it meets our specification, yes, your warranty continues.
Ms. Leeper, you say
Yes, sir.
Carlisle is the roofing company, right?
The manufacturer.
The manufacturer. They provide
The materials.
the materials, they provide the warranty. Why do we need KWA to be a belt and suspenders on their warranty? If it's their product,
They don't necessarily want to honor their warranty when I come back to them and say, hey, this
but
is
it's a
tail bent.
contract that they give us a warranty. Here's our roof, we're selling you a system. And because in my company, we have a sister company that's Tremco. They do roofing. They sell the system. They have a QC who, when he sells it, everything that goes on, he's watching, making sure that they are applying the product the right way. Why do we need KWA to watch what they're doing when they're already doing that?
I will tell you, because we can't oversee the square footage of roof that we have with the work that we have going on. We have.
But that's the roofers that are doing it. They're already there. They're already doing it. They already have the people doing it.
Have you ever experienced what residential roofers are like when there's a hailstorm? Have you ever heard the complaints that come about because they're fly-by-nights, if you will? Carlisle is not local, right? The manufacturer's not here.
Right.
So we've had incidences where we've used other roofers and we've had disputes with the roofing subcontractor. So we've overseen it ourselves and we've gone to battle with the roofing contractor. And in fact, we've had general contractors that then came back to us and said, well, they may be lower priced, but we will never use them because you can't get the quality of work out of them that you need unless you have somebody that can sit on a roof with them while they do it. So
then we don't trust Carlisle to put on these roofs?
Carlisle doesn't put on the roof. Roof toppers, Protec, those guys put
Right.
on the roof. And
And Carlisle doesn't have anybody that's overseeing what they're doing?
they check it, they come to town and they check, but they're not there while it's being done.
Ms. Leeper, you mentioned the master contract with this
KWA.
particular engineering firm. Within the master contract, all of this scope of work was originally discussed. I'm going to assume, again, my memory, but that it came to us for approval at some point. Maybe it was 2021, but we approved that they would be the engineering firm on record to do this particular type of work.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, which, help me to understand here, which is they've assisted in assessing all of the roofs that, all the square footage you just discussed. So they're doing assessing, then they're doing some type of project or construction management.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yes,
So what
ma'am.
we're paying for at this point is a change order to the original contract that we already approved as a board, for them to do assessing, some type of project or construction management. Am I on track with that, or?
Very close. So we are not amending or changing the master contract. The purchase orders end up being, if you will, a subcontract of the master contract. And there are 4 here and 2 last month. These 4 you're amending. You're changing just the terms of the purchase order, not the terms of the master contract.
But in the master contract, are we wanting this engineering firm, or is this what we're saying we want from here forward, to do project or construction management?
I certainly prefer that they do. I think you can tell by the products we've delivered and the campuses that we've built, they have contributed a vital service. I would hate to go forward without a firm, this one or another one,
Yes.
to do this work.
And that would be the difference of us having somebody with this experience working for us at the district to do this particular work while we have these projects versus hiring the firm, which we approved
Yes, ma'am.
in 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I always have concern when there's added costs. So especially if expenditures are exceeding revenue. I noticed in the monthly financial statement, is it true that we're expected to have more revenue than expenditure by the time we get to February?
That's always true. It's true every year.
And will that still be true with these
So these
added
are
costs?
bond funded. They come from the capital budget that was approved by the voters for the construction of these projects. What you're seeing in the financial statements refers to our operating fund 199. And with regard to the deficit you see today, it will never be made up in the first 5 or 6 months of any fiscal year because we don't collect property tax revenue until January and February. So if you look back through past years, the memorandum we give you, it always tells you, don't be surprised, you don't have property tax revenue yet and you won't get it until January and February, which is when our revenues catch up to our budgets. A better measure is to see, okay, if we're 4 months through the year, have I spent roughly 30% of my budget? You know, that's a good idea, a good measure in terms of the expenditures, because they'll remain relatively flat. You'll spend a 12th and then 2/12ths as you go through the fiscal year. The revenue is much different in its timing. You'll get a big hit from the state in September, and then you don't get anything from the property taxes until January, February. So revenues are very sporadic, if you will, while expenses are very flat and they occur in very even increments.
So
This has no impact on that discussion. It's solely related to capital projects
Right, so
out of the bond.
these expenditures that you're asking us to approve tonight will not be a strain on the budget?
No, sir, they will not.
Thank you.
As a QC, and you have 45 hours on a job, what does a QC do? What is their job out there? Just help me, because I mean, we're looking at 45 hours, fee of $23,000 in a lump sum. What does a QC do?
Which campus are you looking at? Or tell me what page you're on, and I can go to the same one with you.
Sageland.
Okay, Sageland in particular is a unique project because we took complete open, if you will, like a terrarium with no roof. So we started from framing a roof and went up. They're responsible for everything from the roof deck to the very top.
So they're up there watching as
Yes.
Yes.
Now, are they standing there 8 hours a day? No. But are they going there and then to Loma and then to Presa and then to Paso Del and then around the district? Absolutely.
But for 45 hours, you're charging us for Sageland. Doesn't
Yes.
say all these.
For what period? Sorry, I'm trying to get to your page. I don't know what page you're on, but let me get there, see if I can get there.
Okay, it's
87.
It's June 10th, 2021, Sageland. And that's the contract 202-10192.
It's page 87.
Thank you. All right, so the executive senior consultant, Mr. Draper, spent 45 hours on this particular part of the project in total. So he's reviewing the observation reports, he's reviewing Carlisle's reports, he's reviewing the GC's reports, the general contractor's reports about the work they've done, making sure it aligns with what Carlisle's representative or observer
Their
says is happening.
specifications.
Yes, along with what the local consultant, the one that's getting the $95 an hour, he actually lives here and he does most of the observations and puts the photos in our project file. So he is the engineer, if you will, that's responsible for overseeing that particular part of the work. So from the deck up, once the framing's done, he's reviewing every phase of that roof.
And
it's on 4 classrooms that did not exist at all.
So once you get the roof and they make sure that everything's done, he'll come and it's an inspection, kind of like an inspector. Then you
Yes,
come
sir.
on and you put on the plywood. He'll come and he'll look at that.
Yes, sir.
Then you come on and we'll put the glue. He'll inspect that.
Yes, sir.
And
they
then
do.
you come on, put the paper. He'll do that, right? That's what the QC does.
That's the intent, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
This work was already done?
Yes, sir.
And it says it was specifically requested by Ysleta ISD?
Yes, sir.
So why would we not pay?
That's
we
why
owe.
I'm here asking for the authority to pay. I certainly understand. I'm frustrated by not having the pricing piece of this, the summary, earlier than we did. I always like asking you in advance, but I will always tell you, I'd rather give him the authority, and I have the authority to tell him to keep moving and to come back and ask you to ratify that decision, because the cost to delay is always greater than the cost to pay after the fact.
Thank you.
So, since this has already happened, these are accurate hours.
And in fact, we had a very blunt conversation about, if I see anything like this coming, you can eat it, because I'm not paying it. So yes, sir, this is it.
How many more of these are in the works?
So as I mentioned when Ms. Woodruff asked, I still have the addition to Sageland, the new administrative office, and the new canopy there. I will engage their services. They'll get another purchase order, and the reason they get another purchase order is because there's a new contractor, if you will. The existing contractor has finished their work. We're going to use someone else to do the rest of Sageland, and this consultant will assist them. They will get a different contract, different purchase order, different subcontract under the master
So it's
for
going
the
to be,
Sageland work.
so it's going to be after the fact again?
No, sir. They're going to get a new purchase order to do the Sageland work. They're going to get a new purchase order to do work at Bel Air High School's health magnet building, because next summer I want to put that roof on and do that conversion there. So we're continuing to work with them. They will get new purchase orders for each project as we go along, and they're very good at estimating. It's only when I change the scope and say, oh, I want more, or I don't necessarily trust that contractor and that roofer, I want you to be eyes on and present more often than we originally estimated that you should be.
Yeah, and it has to do a lot with the way the description of work is. It is a desire of the client to engage the services of KWA Engineering and Building Services Company Incorporated to perform engineering services specifically requested by the Ysleta ISD. The scope of work will be related to campus improvements on East Point Elementary School as follows. So this is kind of like, should have been the beginning document instead of the after the fact document.
And again, if I hadn't changed the scope of work because I wasn't confident in the general contractor, you wouldn't be seeing this at all. They would have had their original purchase order and that's it.
One purchase order.
One per campus, one per project, or one per phase of project.
Is this the norm as to how we work after the
This
fact?
is the norm for this kind of project, yes.
After the fact?
No, that is not the norm. You very seldom see after the fact, me requesting after the fact approval. You see it sometimes. You've seen it on fire sprinklers. You've seen it on CO2 sensors, because the statute changed, the ordinance changed at the city. We had done all of the fire sprinkler installations. We were ready for final fire inspection. The fire marshal said, no, we're going to adopt an ordinance in September, and your last inspection will occur after September 1st, so I'm going to make you put your CO2 sensors in now. Well, that was nowhere in the project, so I said, do it, and I came back to you and said, I need more money for that.
So I think my suggestion is in the future is that we are alerted to the fact that this has already happened and that you want to pay it, instead of the way I read it is something that it's coming up and it's future work, but it's already past work. And that
My
we're just
apologies. I
trying to
will make
pay
sure
it.
that you know, if something like that happens, I will make sure that you know we have experienced a request where they're asking, or I'm asking them to do something else beyond what their original scope was, and we're going to
And if you can
owe
give
them.
us some preliminary, say, hey, we're having this scope of work that is being done at this school. It's going to be this, and this, just to be aware, just to give us a heads up on that. Because the way I read it, it was like, we're providing this for future work, and you're telling us that this is already work that
Yes, sir, it
has
is.
occurred.
Yes, sir.
For future work, can we do a bid process again?
We'll have to go back out for a request for qualifications and see who responds. There are outstanding contracts right now with this vendor that I would have to honor, and I'll tell you quite frankly, I'm at the end, almost at the end of the bond projects. It would be for ongoing life cycle or repairs or things like that that we do normally in our course of work. We still have the major Bel Air project to go. And honestly, I would hate to stop midstream to go out to bid for a roofing consultant.
So the major Bel Air project is you're gonna use this firm again?
Sir, I'm going to use this firm until I finish roofs or until I have to terminate because the board tells me that they don't want to do business with this vendor anymore.
We can't get bids for the other?
I can go back out for qualifications for.
Instead of KW8?
I can, but Bel Air High School is already under contract. I'm
No,
already.
I understand Bel Air, but in the future?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, like all contracts, it has a term. And I think this one was June 21, and it had a 3-year term with 2 one-year extensions thereafter. And so I think we're in either the first extension or at the end of the first 3-year period. So absolutely. And we usually evaluate like that and say, okay, is it better for us just to continue? Are we happy with their services? Do we want to exercise the extensions? Or are we at the end of the first 3-year term and we want out? But routinely, we will go back out to bid.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? No? Okay, let's go back. All right, starting again with number 1. We're still in the workshop, okay. So, approve amendment to PO number 22202428, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Edgemere Elementary School. Number 2, approve amendment to purchase order number 222-01986, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Loma Terrace Elementary School. Number 3, approve amendment to PO number 222-02712, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for East Point Elementary School. Number 4, approve amendment to purchase order number 222-01963, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Sageland Elementary School. Number 5, 2024-2025 instructional calendar.
I would like to have discussion on this item. May I begin? Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Chacon and all the staff, everybody that was involved in creating this proposed calendar for the 2024-2025. I know a lot goes into it. I know there's a lot of complications. I know you're never going to make everybody happy. And there's pros and cons to a year-round calendar and a traditional school year that we've had in the past before. I appreciate comments from YTA and hearing their input, but I have had a lot of input from really over the past 3 years. I've consistently heard from parents they aren't happy with it. They don't like the early start. They don't like the 2 weeks straight off in October and in March. I thought maybe it's just, me and my wife or our little friends of parents. So I also went out and I got to the campus early today before picking up my kids, and I spoke to a lot of parents, many that I've never have introduced myself to or have heard from. These are brand new parents, and across the board, they are not in favor of this calendar. They don't like the July 29th start, and they don't like having 2 weeks off in October and 2 weeks off in March. And, during the discussions with parents, it became very clear they would opt for a later school year start. And we don't have 2 weeks in October, we only have one. And we don't have 2 weeks in March, we only have one. So this is, this is the concerns of the parents that I represent, at least at Pasadale Elementary. That's my scope of sample of people coming to me and telling them what they want. So I'm here to voice those concerns and find out more information, especially for them to understand why we are implementing this type of calendar when it appears not to be wanted by parents. So, one question I had was, who's giving the input? I heard this is what teachers and parents want. Could you speak a little to that, please?
Yes, so our DEIC is composed of a staff member, primarily teachers, from each campus. So there's 50 campuses, we have 50 representatives from each school. Each school has a CIC committee, and that CIC committee meets monthly, and they discuss issues at their school and also part of our DEIC. Then we have a PAC committee, which is a Parent Advisory Committee. We also meet with them monthly. And that committee is composed of 50 members composed from our school. So it's one representative per school.
Okay, and I'll say I am most concerned with what parents have to say. I think what their desire, trumps what teachers desire, because they're the ones that decide whether our students come to this district or not. So we need to be sure to be having their input. You said there's a committee
and
of...
if I could just interrupt.
Yes.
And we do. We provide them a yearly survey. The results, I have them right here. The survey for DEIC, 78% of our teachers are in favor of the calendar, and for the parents, 68% of the parents that filled out the survey are in favor of the calendar.
So it's still a majority with the parents, but we do see that drop amongst parents compared to teachers. Also, I would like to ask, how are these parents selected to be on this committee?
So the parents are selected, they serve as part of your CIC. So either through principal recommendation, they can sign up. Any parent is welcome to be part of our CIC or DEIC. That's always the process. The principals usually have about 3 to 4 parents on the committees, along with the business member, right? Then they ask them at that CIC committee, is anybody interested in participating at the district level in the Parent Advisory Committee? They usually volunteer to be part of the Parent Advisory Committee. Their role is to take back the information that is presented with them, take it back to CIC at the campus that meets also monthly.
So also in my discussion with parents today, nobody is aware that they even have that option to participate in something like that. There's no, flyer put out, nothing sent out on the app. There's no text messages sent out. Letting parents know that this is an option if they would be interested. It sounds like these parents are just handpicked by the principal without having an invitation to the entire campus of parents to sit on this committee. So it really wouldn't surprise me that the survey of those parents, don't differ so much from them and the teachers that are there, especially if they're being handpicked. I think that's highly problematic in getting an accurate scope of how parents feel district-wide. And in our conversation, you said something that made me happy, is that on the next survey, at the end of the year survey, that all parents are invited to, we will now be asking about their opinions regarding a year-round calendar, versus a traditional calendar. And in these asks, I think it's important that we're clear with what the options are. I wouldn't want it to be a question like, are you okay with the calendar? I mean, sure, we're okay with it. But if these are the options that are available, what would you prefer? And I'd really like to see that data. I think that's a way more fair approach in truly giving a voice to parents to say what they really want. And I have no idea what it'll be district-wide, right? I mean, mine's, my sample's from elementary parents. By the way, I'm also curious, the differences, I would be curious to know the differences from what do elementary parents say compared to high school parents. It could be a huge difference in high school parents being okay with the year-round calendar and the 2 weeks off, and not so much for, when you have those first and second graders in the elementary school. I'd like to see the difference in that data as well. So I think that's the best way to know truly how parents feel district-wide. And hopefully we see a clear answer, right? I mean, it could come back 50-50 and then we're almost back to where we are right now in having to decide, what is better. So that's something I look forward to happening, and I look really forward to that data. I'm also curious, we discussed the accelerated learning also earlier today. You mentioned that approximately 20% of the district students participate in accelerated learning during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know right now, or could you find out later, what are the differences between elementary, middle school, and high school? Does that 20% go across the board, or the majority in high school, or?
It does go across the board.
Okay.
And a reminder that your high schools also serve for two purposes. So during your intersessions, they provide, obviously, remediation acceleration, but they also provide LOC. So they provide an opportunity for students to make up loss of credit for those who are in verge of losing a credit for attendance purposes. So that is a time for that. Also at the high schools, they provide TSI camps, SAT camps, different camps throughout to improve on the advanced academic side. So that's also happening at your high school. So different to elementary and middle school, who only provide acceleration, your high schools provide additional services to the students during that time.
So I'm going to have to vote no on this item. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to say or any of my colleagues would like to say, but I have to vote my district. I have to vote the concerns that the parents have brought to me, and they clearly voiced to me today that they do not want me to be in favor of this calendar. And I'm wondering if my colleagues have any other opinions on this matter, or have they heard from their parents? Have they been at campuses, going to parents they haven't spoke to before and getting a true census of what is desired when it comes to this calendar? So those are my comments for this item. Thank you.
If I could just add two things. One, it is important to work closely with our parents and bring light instead of fire, cooperate and collaborate, but the parents are only one element. Another element is the teachers and our employees, because one of the things that we have to be responsive to our teachers, and if 70-80% of our teachers and employees support the current calendar and we retreat from it, the idea of attracting, recruiting, retaining teachers becomes quite a challenge, because all surrounding districts are currently on a modified year-round calendar. And that's done intentionally so that when you have teachers who are also parents that happen to live in the Socorro Independent School District but send their kids to the Ysleta Independent School District, what we as superintendents and educational experts want to do is make sure that when those parents, those teachers, and employees are off for 2 weeks, that they have access to their kids for those same 2 weeks. So all of the districts in Region 19 entered into this agreement, this covenant, that we would do everything possible to try and mirror each other's annual calendar. So there's that to consider. And then the other thing to consider is instructionally, we're not an A-rated district by accident. We believe that teachers working as hard as they possibly can for 9 weeks, students being engaged for 9 weeks, and then following up with a 2-week period to bring in students who have fallen behind into an intimate learning environment to help catch them up, while also providing students opportunities for acceleration, and while also providing teachers a little bit of a break. Because when you teach, and you teach well, it is exhausting. This profession is very, very difficult. So what this does is it gives them that knowledge that they know that in October, if they give us everything they've got for 9 weeks, and they get those 2 weeks off to sort of recharge the batteries, then they come back, they know they're going to go hard again for another 9 weeks and get the holiday break that we're about to experience. It really, I think, takes into consideration and honors just how hard being an effective teacher in the classroom is, and knowing that ultimately allowing students to stay home for 11 weeks in the summer not only doesn't promote growth, but it actually promotes regression, so that you're having to reteach what was being taught in the fourth quarter, or the 9 weeks, for the first 9 weeks of the following year. And if that happens over a 9-year, 10-year, 12-year period, you fall behind about 2 years. So there's a lot of other reasons why we moved to this calendar as a region. And as much as we'd like to be accommodating to parents, I think our first responsibility is to make sure that the students have a great experience. In order to make sure that happens, we want to provide teachers with the kind of work environment that gives them the best chance of being effective teachers, so that ultimately parents are happy with the experience their kids have in our school.
Dr. De La Torre, may I elaborate on something
Yes.
briefly? We also have to take into consideration, because the districts throughout Region 19 are year-round, and teachers have to resign within 45 days before the first day of instruction. If our start date changes, that pushes back our resignation timeline, which means that neighboring districts, their timeline for resignation would be, we'll just say 2 weeks before, ours would be 2 weeks later. So what we know about Region 19 is teachers leave one large district to go to another large district. So because our resignation timeline would be pushed forward and theirs would be pushed back, we would have a staffing shortage for teachers given the current state of education.
Can I say something? I think it's clear. I think these are important points. Adding the question to the survey at the end of the year does not seem unreasonable. At least we get to take the temperature of our parents and how that's working. I do agree in the sense, so when I started as a board member, which feels like ages ago now, but I do remember visiting when we had year-round school, and I visited, school would start, I want to say, in August, and I visited maybe September, October, and it was intense. You could feel the tension walking into the school. People were stressed, students were stressed. It's a very intense time, because we're trying to put everything in their brains at one time, coming back from a long summer. I visited it this year at the beginning of the school year, and it felt a lot different. I know this is anecdotal, but it felt more of, I guess, a routine. It felt more inviting. It felt more like, okay, this is what we're doing now, and we know that we're going to have this to look forward to, versus the entire waiting for a long, long break. Something else that is important, we do compete with the other districts, and while our parents are obviously, and our students are our bread and butter, and we serve them. They're very important, obviously. But we do compete with other districts, and I expressed this a little bit to Trustee Hernandez, that I have heard before we went to year-round from teachers that used to work here at Ysleta and went to Socorro because they were year-round, and they can plan their lives. We have to remember that teachers are parents as well. Teachers have lives, teachers have families, and if this is something that is working for them, I would like to continue to support our teachers. We are one of the largest employers, and remaining competitive is extremely important to continue to, as Ms. Russell stated, to have the best of the best working for us. I do know this as well, that when parents don't like something, you will not hear the end of it. The phone will continue to ring. They will call each and every one of us. They will submit letters. If it's really not working for them, we will hear from them. So I am interested to see that addition. I agree with Trustee Hernandez in that point, but I do think for this particular calendar year, we are in a good place, and I would like us to continue to see the improvements in academics.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to some of the arguments I just heard. It really sounds like the concern is doing what's most convenient for the teachers who are paid. This is their job, and making sure everything's nice and convenient for them, above parent consideration, because the outreach hasn't been done to parents. This committee is not enough. These are handpicked parents that are picked for a certain way, and we're not getting the true input. And it feels like we want to keep it that way, just so that things are nice and smooth and the teachers are happy. We need to make sure that parents are happy. I know for sure in my community, they don't think about options. They feel like whatever the district says, that's the way it's going to be. One of the best experiences I had today were parents thanking me for even coming up to them and letting them know that they can have a voice and they should have a choice in what's happening here. I'm hearing the argument that we're worried that our teachers are going to leave for other districts, but we should be way more concerned about parents opting not just to the two other districts, but to other charter schools and other options for education. If we are able to, in fact, find that parents do not like this, and perhaps if it is true, and we'll know, once we have the data, that parents are not in favor of these 2-week breaks in October and March, and we're the district that first steps up and changes our calendar, maybe our enrollment from students outside of the district will continue. Maybe students that have left us for charter schools will come back. And that's the most important thing, because if we continue to lose our enrollment, well, we're going to lose teachers anyways, because we're not going to need them, because we don't have the students in our district here to teach. The argument that, hey, 9 weeks is fine and they're going to come back to school and know all the information, but if we delay 2 more weeks, then all that information is gone. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. If anything, I feel the bigger disruptor is during October and March, when they're in a frame mind of this is the semester. It starts late summer, and it ends before Christmas. But we're constantly breaking that up. Plus, we have the whole week off for Thanksgiving, which I love because everyone's in holiday mood anyways. I think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think I certainly feel that way, and I know the parents in my community feel that way, that the bigger disruptor is in March. And as far as teachers needing a break, it's voluntary whether they want to do the accelerated learning or not. And they're paid extra to do it. It's not an extra strain that's on these teachers. It's the opportunity to make more money, which I know several teachers appreciate and enjoy. And also, during that advanced learning week, it is not a full school day. They're dealing with 20% of the load. They're getting there later, they're leaving earlier, and they're only dealing with a few students as opposed to a filled classroom. That in itself is a break, especially if you're being paid extra for it. So I mean, those, unless you're coming to me with data and hard research and studies that show the benefits, the academic benefits of having 2 weeks off versus 1 week off during these months of March and October, I'm not buying it. So I'm not supporting this calendar.
Okay, if I may, oh, did you have something to say?
I just kind of want to piggyback off what Trustee Hernandez has been saying. In the Parkland community, all the parents I've been talking to and teachers, I have yet to meet one that appreciates the year-round calendar. I understand that 78% of those on the DEIC do, great. But on the DEIC, one per school, that would be not even a sixth of what's at Parkland Middle as far as teachers go, representing the Northeast. And I've yet to meet one that does appreciate this calendar. If we're worried about teachers leaving our district to go somewhere else, they're going to get paid less. I think we've worked really hard to make sure they get as much compensation as they can get and are as supported as we can possibly support them. So if anything, I can see more teachers coming this way, because this is not just a district for students to become champions, but it's the district for teachers to be able to grow and hopefully earn an income that they'd be happy to, that would be at least competitive. So I agree, I can't support a year-round calendar either.
I got, you know, and I respect Mr. Haggerty and Mr. Hernandez. I know Mr. Haggerty's out there, he's really in tune with his community, and I think everyone knows that I'm pretty in tune with my community, and I've got different perspectives from my community. They like taking their kids early because they can go to work and drop off their kids, and then they come back and pick up their kids. Having the 3 months off of summer saves them on you know, babysitters and you know, putting them in daycare. So a lot of my community, and I'm speaking for my community, I know you speak for your guys' community, but a lot of the people, and they know that I'm out there at every basketball game, every soccer game, and I do in tune. When this came up, I talked to a lot of these parents, and majority of them are for this calendar. I mean, I don't even need to go to the teacher side because I know that side. Obviously, you all know my wife's a teacher, but for the most part, the parents that I've talked to do enjoy it. They enjoy the 2 weeks in October. Most of them, they usually take, well, I usually take my kid on a vacation. I know, granted, some people can't, but at least it's less time in the daycare. A lot of my, and I'm speaking about mine, take them to grandma and grandpa. They find a way to make it happen. I agree with the data. I would like to see the data that's coming up. Trustee Hernandez, that's great. I would like to see that between elementaries and high schools. But as again, for my community, I get the opposite. And that's all I got to say.
All I really want to say is that I think that the data idea is a good one. I think we should include this in our survey, and then maybe we will have a more concise answer. Then there's always only the problem too is your data is only as good as however many people fill out your survey. And so at some point, maybe we need to make sure that this is, which I think we do every year anyway, emphasized and made sure that every parent realizes and knows that they can take this survey. But so I do believe that seeing the data would be a good thing to happen for us. That way then we can see a better picture of not just what our opinions is or which parents we've talked to or whatever. We can see more or less what everybody really thinks. So,
To say the Eastwood parents participate in their children's education is an understatement. I was out there, knocked on 500 doors during the campaign, talked to large numbers of parents. One thing that was never mentioned to me was the calendar. My parents talked about core curriculum emphasizing reading, writing, math, science. They were concerned about the number of minutes spent in the classroom that the teachers had to teach algebra, to teach English. They were not happy with 45-minute classes. They emphasized and they wanted to make sure that every child in this district had what they needed to be successful in the classroom. They wanted to make sure that every teacher in this district had what they needed to be successful. And of course, the biggest complaint I've gotten from parents, from students, from teachers is lunchtime is too short. You knew it. I really want to see at the end of the year the data. I would be very curious about how the majority of our parents would respond. And to get to the bottom of this, let's find out what they really want. Again, I'm out there. I was at Scottsdale Elementary this morning. I was at 4 schools last Tuesday. I'm like Mr. Bustillos. I've gone to the basketball games, football games. I'm there. And parents see me in the gym, and they come up, and they know they can come up and speak to me. And I guess I should ask them about the calendar. I have not done that, but I will. I'll start checking to see how they feel. Okay?
Okay, thank you for everyone. My personal view on this is, my perspectives of this is several. One of them was when I was a teacher, we were on standard calendar, which was okay. I mean, but it does make a difference when you go to the year-round. I kind of fought it at the beginning. I didn't like it because it was cutting into my summer as a teacher. But over the short years that I was there, I learned to appreciate the 9 weeks, because I could focus on 9 weeks by themselves. I didn't have any overlap or anything. 9 weeks started, tests were, and assignments were done through all those 9 weeks, lesson plans, and then at the end of the 9 weeks, they received their grade. Let me tell you, being a teacher was one of the most challenging jobs I've ever had. I worked at the railroad, I worked as an engineer, but being in the classroom with all that pressure, that you have to do to have these kids educated day in and day out was a challenge. And having that break at October, it was something I look forward to as a teacher, but I also appreciate it from my other perspective as a parent. I had at that time 6 grandkids in school, and they all came out at the same time. And we all were able to plan some kind of an excursion for those 2 weeks that we enjoyed as a family. But also, I have grandkids at YSD ISD. Okay, so we were able to have enjoyed those same 2 weeks that they had, because, like Dr. La Torre said, they had the same schedule, and the same thing at Socorro, and the same thing at Canutillo. So as a parent, I enjoyed that, knowing that I could plan for something to do with not only my grandkids, but with my other grandkids, and that was a great advantage. But the reset that you get as a teacher on those breaks, believe me, it was a big, how am I going to say, mind massage. I mean, you just got to relax for those 2 weeks, and then not think about it too much, and then get ready for the next. It's like somebody running a race. You run, and you run, and you run, and then you take a break, take a breather, and then you can go on again and run. And that's the same thing. It's a mental challenge. And yes, I know we get paid as a teacher, but it also comes with other pressures as well. In all my tenure here as a board member, I've never had any complaints about our schedule, of our calendar. And the Hanks area fully supports what YISD has done. And I know that the 2 weeks in October, my own grandson had to attend school because of his, and it wasn't his fault, but he had to be off for quite a while. So he was able to come back to school that first week, so he wouldn't end up with loss of credit. So personally, I, as you know, from what I said, I support the year-round. I think it has many advantages. I understand what some parents are concerned about, but if you look at the city and our districts here, everybody is on year-round, and that helps a lot with families in figuring out about daycare or grandparent care, because I did take care of some of my grandkids during those 2 weeks as well. So that's my 2 cents on that. All right, if no more discussion, we'll go on to action item number 6. Consider and determine the use of chaplains under Senate Bill 763 and related board resolution. I think we already discussed this thoroughly. My question is, and my proposal is, do we do it now or do it later? I would like to postpone this action on this until March board meeting. Is that fine?
I think the deadline has been computed as March 1st, and that's in your
I
materials.
thought March 30th.
We just
Well,
confirmed it, sir.
We recounted the number of months, and
So-
Recount.
All right, so
we did a recount, and it's
can
6
I-
months after September 1st.
So
that'd
I
be March
would
1st.
like to postpone the decision on this until February.
And this is still the workshop, sir.
So we do it during after
Right.
the workshop?
But can I make a recommendation
No.
as the district's
ahead.
counsel? And I conferred this with Mr. Safi on this. So the law, reading back, we looked at the bill again, the law requires you to adopt a policy to either employ chaplains or use them as volunteers. And as stated earlier, you're not required to approve the resolution. So what I would recommend is take no action on the resolution if that's the board's will. But as it relates to your policy, I would like to propose a motion. You already have some language in what administration is recommending, but I would like to propose a motion that would comply with what's required of us under law. So I can do that without you having to entertain a resolution. And then you wouldn't have to table it.
Okay.
And I
I'm
will do
glad I
that.
let you talk.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So as far as the consent items, we'll just adopt it as it is at this point for the policy?
For the
or-
policy, I would actually,
And take no action on the resolution? Is that
maybe,
your
can we
advice?
set that policy item aside, Tony? Right, so we can actually pull that one out from your consent policy items. That way I can recommend to you something different than what's being proposed under administration's recommendation.
So you want to pull,
I would like to pull GKG local, if that's the board's wishes.
I make a motion that we pull that
Policy
policy.
GKG local?
Yes,
Okay.
to be considered separately.
second by Catherine. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that an aye, Mr. Shea? Okay. He's going like this. Okay. Motion approved. All right. So we are leaving the workshop. Finally. Oh, we have number 7? There's just number 7? Oh, yeah. Consider approval of interlock agreement for adult education consortium. Any discussion of this? No? Everybody's tired? All right. So the agenda review. Okay, the order of agenda has been approved. We have, may I have a motion? Electronic motion.
President Ochoa, can you give me just a second, please?
She's been sleeping over there. She's been sleeping with Monica. You've been sleeping too. Okay. Okay,
we're on
Ms.
the
Woodruff?
the consent agenda, right?
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda items listed in this agenda as recommended by the administration.
And the remaining. And the remaining. Did you say that?
Because we pulled one.
That's from the policy.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Just checking you.
And this is with the exception of GKG local.
No, this is the consent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is consent that I made the motion
Right.
on.
Yes.
She's checking you. Okay.
Go ahead and vote.
All votes have been cast. The results are 7 approve and no opposition. No opposed. Okay.
Mr. Ochoa, it didn't show up on the screens, and so.
What do you mean it show up on the
I
screen?
didn't.
Oh, on that screen.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry.
It showed up on our
It's
screen.
on this, yeah, I see it. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's been a long night, Mr. Sutton.
Yeah, this is quite a day, so what can I say?
Don't worry, we didn't see it either, Sophie. You're not seeing it.
All right. Policies, action items. The order of the agenda has been approved and will now take one vote for the items listed during the workshop of this remaining meeting.
It's on the policy action items.
I know.
You're doing all the policies together?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just pulling one up.
Policy number GKG, number 12, has already been pulled, and it's in the pulled section of your agenda.
Thank you, Monica. Mr. Haggerty?
I move to approve the policy action items listed on the agenda as recommended by TASB and administration.
We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. And this is considering that we pulled number, what was it?
Number 12, sir.
Number 12, okay.
GKG.
The results are in. 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, now we're going to consider the pool policy item number 10? 12?
Number 12, sir. And so what I'm recommending as far as a motion for the board's consideration here is to approve the new TASB recommended local policy GKG to allow chaplains to volunteer thereunder on a non-discriminatory basis.
It's just a. To
It's
volunteer.
Yeah, so it'd be a motion to approve the new TASB recommended local policy GKG to allow chaplains to volunteer thereunder on a non-discriminatory basis.
Okay, let me send it to you. Okay, to your phone.
The resolution, I mean, not the resolution, the policy is that we're not discriminating against anybody and naming chaplains in the policy. That's all.
That is correct. And so the resolution, and this is as an alternative to adopting a resolution, all that's required is to adopt a policy to either employ or use chaplains as volunteers. And so to make certain that we meet that spirit of the law, I want to make sure that the motion captures chaplains because our policy is neutral.
Yeah, but it's not saying anything about employing or anything like that.
Right. So the policy remains neutral.
That they're allowed to volunteer.
But because the law requires a record vote from you all, I want to make sure that there's no issue in interpretation. So we need to make sure that our policy would allow chaplains to volunteer.
No, you're. Okay, so can we, do you have it? Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Woodruff. Do I have a second? Mr. Haggerty seconds.
Mr. President? Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry.
Where'd he go?
Do we wait?
Well, go ahead and cast your electronic votes until he gets here.
I've got to read the motion first, though.
Yeah, when
Right?
he shows up.
Okay.
Well, yeah. What's the interpretation of that? He left the podium, the diocese.
There's no requirement to recess just because
Yeah,
a trustee
so
leaves
just
the
go
podium. You
ahead
still
and-
have a quorum.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
I move to approve a new TASB recommended local policy, GKG, to allow chaplains to volunteer thereunder on a non-discriminatory basis.
Okay, please cast your electronic votes. Votes have been cast. There's 5 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 no vote. Okay. All right. Action item number 1, approve amendment to PO number 222-02428, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Edgemere Elementary School. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have electronic motion? Mr. Dwyer.
I move to approve amendment to PO number 222-02-428, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated to increase the fee by the amount of $11,162.50 for additional engineering services at Edgemere Elementary School contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Thank you. We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. Results are in, 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 2, approve amendment to PO number 2220198 master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Loma Terrace Elementary School. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. May I have an electronic motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. President, I move to approve amendment to PO number 2201986, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company, Inc., to increase the fee by the amount of $8,750 for additional engineering services at Loma Terrace Elementary School contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 3, approve an amendment to PO 222-02712, master contract 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for East Point Elementary School. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. May I have an electronic motion? Mr. Dwyer.
Mr. President, I move to approve amendment to PO number 222-02712, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated to increase the fee by the amount of $39,120 for additional engineering services at East Point Elementary School contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Thank you. We have a second by Mr. Hernandez. Please cast your electronic votes. Results are in, 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 4, approve amendment to PO 222-01963, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company Incorporated for Sageland Elementary School. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have an electronic motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. President, I move to approve amendment to PO number 222-01963, master contract number 202-10192 with KWA Engineering and Building Science Company, Inc., to increase the fee by the amount of $23,015 for additional engineering services at Sageland Elementary School contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Thank you. We have a second by Mr. Haggerty. Please cast your electronic votes. Results are in, 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 5, 2024-2025 instructional calendar. May I have a motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. President, I move to approve the YISD instructional calendar for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
I have a second by Ms. Lucero. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. The results are 5 in favor, 2 opposed. Action item number 6, consider and determine the use of chaplains under Senate Bill 763 and related board resolution.
No action.
No, it's no action.
No, we,
Just, we just have no action on this, no vote. Okay. Okay. Okay, action item number 7. Consider approval of interlock agreement for adult education consortium. May I have a motion? Mr. Bustillos.
Mr. President, I move to approve and authorize the superintendent to sign an interlocking agreement between Ysleta Independent School District, Socorro Independent School District, and El Paso Independent School District, setting forth roles of districts in Far West Adult Education Consortium under a potential grant from the Texas Workforce Commission, and any supplementary agreements in association with the grants for the period continuing through the grant's term, any extensions through June 30th, 2029, contingent upon final negotiation approval by in-house counsel.
Thank you. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. And we come to the end of our board meeting. First of all, I want to just say thank you to everybody here, especially my fellow board members. It has been a very unique year in a good way, and I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, you know.
Merry Christmas.
And have a
Merry
safe
Christmas.
and holiday, and we'll see you when we'll see you before then, but look forward to it next year, 2024.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right, well, if no other, may I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Adjourn.
Don't forget. And someone came by and dropped off a bunch.